freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome to myself, because there's literally nobody watching to this afternoon. But we're going to continue to do the two-way workshops in spite of demand for such a thing, because that's how you start new things up, right? So got some links out there for people. We run this every Tuesday and every Saturday as an effort to collaborate and encourage people to participate in two-way media. So creating content with firearms in mind, and lots of different reasons to do that. And I don't have any interest in talking to you about it right now. So until anybody else joins in, we'll just start listening to what we began the show with there, which was the intro to Gun Freedom Radio, a 2-hour podcast each week, hosted by Cheryl and Dan Todd out of Phoenix area. And they've given us the okay to replay their podcast, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm working on some things here, and we'll keep an eye on the chat out there, and we'll replay their chat until anybody shows up. So I see Southpaw out there. Welcome. And like I said, there's lots of links out there via email, and we'll see if anybody's got some time to join in. If anybody has any questions or any thing they'd like to share, feel free. Without any further ado, we'll get back to Gun Freedom Radio.
Welcome to episode number 149 of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. We are brought to you by azfirearms.com, your nationwide hometown gun shop. I am one of your hosts, Cheryl Todd.
And I'm the other guy, Dan Todd. We got a great show today. Our theme is zeroing in. And Cheryl, I hope you stand target with that one.
Oh, I see what you did there. Nicely done. Well, as much as I would like to have written a really long, wonderful opener like I normally do, our show is so cram-packed with awesome interviews today that I'm really going to just kind of dive right in. But we are zeroing in on the last few interviews that we did while we were at the 2019 SHOT Show in Las Vegas. And our hour number 2 is something really special. I had the opportunity to have a 2.5-hour long interview with 4 just really incredible guys that are working on something we're calling the Unity Project. Maj Toure, Kevin Dixie, Ken Scott, and Argo J. And so the entire second hour is an excerpt, just about a 45-minute excerpt from that show, from that interview. And for sure, you're going to want to go to our Gun Streamer channel and our YouTube channel in order to hear the entire interview. But for right now, let's just kind of sit back and relax. And it's more like mystery guest. You never know who's going to pop up in the next segment. Stick around. It's going to be a really great show as we are zeroing in here on Gun Freedom Radio. Hey
Hi ladies, Cheryl Todd here from azfirearms.com. Many of us ladies are taking the important step of becoming responsibly armed, but it can be an intimidating process. And with all the politics swirling, a first-time gun buyer, whether a guy or a lady, might feel uncertain about where to begin and who to trust. At azfirearms.com, we are a small, friendly, family-owned shop that specializes in first-time gun buyers. We are staffed with knowledgeable people who are ready to help answer all of your questions. My husband Dan and I pride ourselves on having a safe, no-pressure environment. Once you have decided on a purchase, azfirearms.com partners with professional firearms instructors who will train you to become a responsible, safe, prepared, and proficient gun owner. So ladies and gents, when you are looking for personalized service and a huge selection, come to azfirearms.com in Old Town Avondale off the I-10 and Dysart Road, or visit us on the web at azfirearms.com.
Hi folks, I'm Don Kyle. If you're looking for the biggest little gun shop in the West, look to azfirearms.com. They have 1,100 guns in stock and a knowledgeable staff to help you find just the right firearm for you. azfirearms.com is my nationwide hometown gun shop, and you should make it yours too.
Come in for AZ Firearms' huge gun buying event, taking place now until the end of the month. From single items to entire collections, AZ Firearms pays you the highest value for guns. Long guns, handguns, military, western, even your old brass and ammo. We buy it all. Find us online at azfirearms.com or visit us off the I-10 at Dysart Road at 215 East Western Avenue in historic downtown Avondale. Don't miss the AZ Firearms huge gun buying event, now through the end of the month at azfirearms.com.
Want to talk guns? This is Cheryl Todd.
And I'm Dan Todd. We're the host of Gun Freedom Radio, heard every Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. on Dave Pratt's Star Worldwide Network.
If you feel passionate about gun rights and the Second Amendment issues that have a profound effect on our lives, or maybe you want to stay current on the latest gun laws with analysis from legal experts and policymakers,
Maybe you love shopping for guns and crave the latest and greatest equipment. Are you looking for interesting tips on how to maintain your firearm? Wondering which firearm is the best option for your personal protection?
we created Gun Freedom Radio for you to talk about the issues, to become informed, and to be entertained. Gun Freedom Radio covers the latest news in the world of firearms, and we want you to join the conversation. So let's talk. That's Gun Freedom Radio each week, every Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. And catch us on demand at gunfreedomradio.com.
Proudly sponsored by azfirearms.com, the biggest little gun shop in Arizona.
This is Cheryl Todd with Gun Freedom Radio, coming at you from the 2019 SHOT Show in fabulous Las Vegas. And speaking of fabulous, these...
Hey, Pink.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
Problem. So you got the email okay then? I'm assuming, because I didn't really put the out on gun channels.
How long ago did you send it out?
Yeah, just a couple minutes ago. A couple minutes before the top of the hour.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, because I never can tell how long it takes, for it to come through on my phone. So I just got back about an hour ago from that auction. So.
How'd that go?
I didn't come back with anything, so guess it saved me some money. I did see a lot of nice guns go for dirt cheap. Except for the one that I wanted. Yeah, it was between me and one other guy, and it got up to 1,700, and I was like, man, I think I'm gonna go that. Ain't higher than that.
Over that PSL?
Yeah. I mean, because a buddy of mine was like, yeah, you might have won that for $50 more. I was like, yeah, but for $200 more, I can get a brand new one.
Good point. You don't know what's going on with the auction gun.
Right.
Well, at this point, we got Patriot out there. Says he's getting a quick charge and cooking dinner and jump in. And we'll see how far it goes. I don't need to, well, I guess I'll run it for a little while. It's only for 10 minutes. But I'm listening to Gun Freedom Radio here. Setting up this, I guess it's an Indiegogo. You got any 2A media type of stuff, or also just throw back on the thing, I guess?
Nope, that's fine. Go ahead and turn it back on.
Okay. Of course, feel free to stop it or whatever. If there's something going on they want to chat about, whatever topics they talk about. Sounds like she said it was finishing up some people at SHOT Show.
Okay, that's fine.
Interviews from SHOT Show.
Two awesome ladies standing next to me. I want to give them a chance to explain to you all the different hats that they wear in this amazing industry, the firearms industry. I have with me Emily Valentine and Amy Robbins, and together they are the Not Your Average Gun Girls podcast.
We're Nyack for short.
Hey, that makes it easier. Well, because Emily's standing closest to me, you talk to us first and then we'll go to Amy. How did the two of you get connected and realize that there was a need for a not so gun forward discussion like a podcast?
It's so fucking cold here.
I think connections are made these days through social media, through Instagram 3 years ago, and from that, our relationship just we got closer and closer because we both.
Yeah, I saw videos at a Flagstaff where there's like 3 or 4 feet of snow.
And over that time,
The snow's all gone. Did you see my Instagram from this morning?
No, I didn't.
I was got here late yesterday, so like an hour late almost. Started the show an hour late, and then just jumped right into the show or whatever. And then did the show, and like I barely got my one space heater going, so I only got like the one space heater. But anyway, it snowed and everything yesterday. But anyway, I was bullshitting with Marco for a minute after the show. And then I'm like, all right, dude, I gotta go to bed. I had to wake up this morning. I was doing taxes this morning, so I had an appointment to do taxes and stuff this morning. So like 1 o'clock, I'm going to go to bed, and frickin' literally snow caved the roof in. So I had to spend a couple hours like cleaning the roof up and the ceiling up and cleaning up all the shit and whatnot. And then I go to, I'm throwing all that shit away or whatever, the roof that had caved in the house here. And then, so now I got a big hole in the roof. Right? That's always fun. It's super cold.
Gee.
And then I'm like closing the door to like the last load of shit to take out. I closed the door and like the frickin' doorknob fell apart in my hand. Like literally the doorknob fell apart. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm changing out the fucking doorknob. Hey, so I'm fucking cold and not looking forward to having to do shit. I don't mind doing shit. I just don't like having to do shit. Like now it's #1 priority, like this giant hole in the roof kind of shit.
Damn.
Oh, look at this. It goes to SAF. 2A fund. Anyway, I need to get this thing going so I can actually start cooking. All right, go to Mark Yankees. I tried that 2A thing. we call it? Pistol project. Project. Anyway, hold this back on.
Okay.
We started talking about podcasting as another avenue to continue to spread our message. And when we decided that we were going to do a podcast, we thought about what kind of podcast do we want to do? And naturally, it kind of was an extension of the conversations that we would have, just through text and while we were getting together. The girly things, what are you wearing tonight? You know, what's your favorite lipstick? But also wanting to then spread that message of women empowerment through self-defense and knowing that there are so many awesome women in the industry, and we wanted to give them a platform to share their stories. We wanted women to be able to hear also the way that other women are defending themselves and choosing to defend themselves. So it just has come together so nicely.
That's amazing. So, from your perspective, I mean, you know, it's like kind of like the dating game, or what was that show where they would each tell their story, right? Right. So, then from your perspective, like, what were you seeing that was really missing? Where was the hole in the industry and the conversation that you guys felt like really need to fill that hole to serve the people that are, you know, like-minded women?
Right. Well, I think it dawned on me when I was working for NRHTV about 4 years ago, when I realized, I was like, man, here I am as a Second Amendment supporter, but I know nothing about guns, and I never really had day-to-day conversations about guns, but they just seamlessly fit into my life.
Yes.
And as I was working with NRHTV, I realized there's a lot, because it brought up the conversation with my other books. We're working with guns. I'm like, I want to learn how to shoot. Okay, wait, I just got it done. Can you teach me how to shoot? And I was like, so there's a lot of women out there that look like us, they got national stickers, but we are hunters. We don't have any military or law enforcement background. We don't wear a problem with that, but we just don't.
You're also not the camo wearing, you know, bearded 50-year-old
who takes a camo every now and then in like a cheap way. We just feel like there's like so many normal, average, everyday women that love the Second Amendment, but maybe they want to listen to some things about guns that wasn't available when we were trying to get into all of this. There were no women that had platforms to speak about any of this stuff. So I think it was a natural progression for us. And we came up with a name because we're like, really? Are we going to do a podcast? Why are we going to do a gun podcast? We're so not your average gun girls.
Right.
And we're like,
there you go. That's the one. Well, I love that distinction that you made, that people can be passionate about their constitutional rights and not necessarily gun owners.
Absolutely right.
And so there's a whole different conversation. People out there that will very much value our right to carry guns, that Second Amendment right, but they aren't even, you know, interested in carrying or owning guns.
That was me. That was my own personal story. I mean, I of course, I had a gun in my house, and I feel like carrying guns on their body. I thought that was like crazy. I thought, a little paranoid. I didn't understand why people want to do that. And so, I mean, we all have our own trying to get to that decision. You know, do you get your license to carry certain things? I'm glad I did get to that. But we're not alone. There's millions of women out there that are looking for something, and just interested in this.
Absolutely. Well, and so then that is what you guys do together, but then individually, you both have separate brands because, you know, there is 24 whole hours in a day.
Oh my gosh. I need more.
Oh my gosh, sure. Yes, we all do, right? And so Emily Valentine has Style Me Tactical. And so that is really taking both of those worlds and melding together right there. You want to be stylish, but you also want to be a little tactical.
Right. When I entered into having a gun for self-defense, you know, one of the first things that I realized was that, well, everything that I saw out there was very tactical, very dark. Okay, so I'm like, is that what I have to wear? Because I'm sorry, I'm not going to have my skinny jeans and heels in order to defend myself. So I use, you know, some many times for my blog to start chronicling that journey, and I also wanted to help other women who were interested in being prepared and wanting to defend themselves with tips on how you can go about doing that, and just sharing kind of what my experiences, as well as the ways that they go about incorporating a more self-reliant mindset into their lifestyle.
I absolutely love that. And then Miss Amy Robbins has Alexo Athletica.
Dude, yes, so it took a lot of my hours in the day.
Yeah, right. And so I love how, you incorporated into your life firearms to go along with your very active lifestyle, right?
Oh God, and like just as everyone was starting this journey, I was like, I am not gonna change my passion for my function. There's gotta be a way to be together. It needs to feel good. It needs to feel good. And so with production and marathon, I realized I was missing in the industry. I lived in Lululemon. I needed it to
All right, thanks to everybody that bought stuff yesterday. All kinds of free stuff went out, and no kids stole it, so it's a good thing. And I didn't have to drive over to the post office, so that's even better. All right, what's going on here? Getting a quick change. Tony's here. Tony has a link too, I thought. I can just do this too. Good luck, my grandpa's out there. Welcome. So yeah, we've just been listening to Gun Freedom Radio. Guess interview with Not Your Average Gun Gals podcast. A couple of gals that told you their story and how they got into podcasting. And Cheryl was interviewing them up at SHOT Show. And I've been setting up this campaign for getting a bunch of people, a bunch of organizations, some patches. So we're going to have an Every Second Matters patch, because why not? We need another one. Got a Florida Carry patch. That one is going to look like that probably. 2A for E is going to look like that one. Tony will jump in here. 2A Fun looks like this one, I'm guessing. This is a shitty version of it because I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but Never Enough Ammo is going to look something like that, except, better. But basically it'll be his text logo like that. Gunstreamer is to be announced. We don't know. This will be what the GunTube one looks like. This will be what Yankees looks like, but Pew Pew Jew is going to come up with something different than he's already got this logo made. And then we don't know what's going on with Ghost or with Clover, who both have links and don't join these chats ever. So we're getting closer, but turns out I can't count. So we already have 11, and that's more than 10. So I had to recalculate to basically 12. I figure I want to leave room for at least one more, and then we'll see what happens. So Tony almost jumped in here. Then so that brings us up to $9,000. I believe that'll be, well, if you do the math, what's 9,000 divided by 50? 180? 45. No, 180. So that's going to be like 180 people, almost 200 people. So we'll see. But I think with this many organizations, we should be able to come up with 200 people that are interested in getting a set like this. And then that'll allow us, if I'm doing my math correctly, it'll allow us to get the 150 that will, or 100, oh shit, wait a minute. Maybe I am doing my math incorrectly. I'm going to have to do some math. I'll just keep working on this. But we're going to need 180, not 150. So what might happen is everybody will get, what would that be? 70 patches instead of 100, unless it goes over. If it goes over, then everybody gets back to 100. So we'll have to figure it out. But anyway, it was a little easier when it was 10. It makes it a little bit tougher when it's 12, just because the numbers aren't quite so round. But we'll figure out the math part of it, and it'll be somewhere around 200 people to participate, it looks like. But we'll see. It'll be that all or nothing, so nobody will put any money down unless it happens. And then once it happens, there should be enough there to make all the consequences, and that'll be that each of these organizations will get 100 of their patches. So I have an extra 100 Every Second Matters patches. Florida Carry will get 100 shipped to them. Tony up in New Jersey will get 100 shipped to him. This Tony will get 100 shipped to him. Clover will get 100 or whatever he comes up with. GunTube, Gunstreamer each get 100. Everybody gets 100. So I've just been setting that up. Huh?
Thanks for including 2A Fund in the.
Yeah, I think that's a good one, and I think a lot of people could take the lead with that. You know, they're like, I don't like who he funds or whatever, or I wish you would fund it monthly or weekly or something. You know, so I think that's a great one for people to emulate or just jump on board, because it is, you know, you've got it to whoever wants to participate. That's cool. But I like the idea of that one, so that's what I tried to do here. It's a word eclectic to get like a good mix to get people aware, so that it's not just organizations and it's not just creators and it's not just video posting platforms, right? It's a little bit of everything. Well, not everything, but a little bit of stuff. And yeah, that's about it. I don't know how much more I need to do on here. I needed to get a picture made. I did work on that yesterday, and I might throw some question marks on these so people don't get too confused about, you know, Pew Pew Jew's not going to look like that one. Clover Tech's probably not going to look like that. I didn't have a chance to talk to Ghost on what he's thinking. Some of yours I know will be the same, but a couple of 4 of these at least are, who knows what they're going to actually look like. So I don't know how big a deal that is for people. But anyway, I got the art going. I think it's all good to go in here, but I think I do need to recalculate the math. I don't think I added, gotta go see if my spreadsheet added shipping. Because when you start talking 30 people shipping, that's, you know, $3-4. Actually, it just prices just went up, so I'm gonna start calculating $4 each. So that'll actually, shit, I need to go weigh 12 patches and figure out if I'm not at the 4 something level. So I'm gonna go, you know, refine my math here, and it should go live tomorrow at the latest, hopefully tonight or tomorrow. I think I'm getting pretty close to being done. And then it'll run for an amount of time. I'll also have to look at the calendar. We'll backwards engineer it so that if everybody gets the patches in their hand, you know, let's say the couple of comfortable days before NRA show, then we'll backwards see how long it takes to make them, and then how long it takes to get paid from Patreon, or wait, is this Indiegogo, and then that's when it'll end. But I don't think we'll need a full month for this. We won't have a full month, but I don't think we'll need a full month either. It'll either work or it won't.
No, those all being done in PVC.
Yeah, all PVC.
Yeah.
I mean, the costs are very similar by the time you start getting to quantity, but I can't imagine anybody would. I mean, if somebody really preferred them, but most of the patches look much nicer, much sharper, and they get better detail and everything.
Right.
And then, I don't know, I think there is something. I don't get my patches dirty all that often, but there is something to be said for if you just get like plain old mud or dirt, like mud basically on them. A regular patch can be kind of a pain in the butt, where a PVC, you literally just rinse it off with water and it's back to good.
Right.
Abrasion and stuff, I don't know. You know, you can only get a PVC patch like scraped on something once and it removes it, where the fabric tends to be a little bit more resilient to, you know, road rash and just scraping it on something as you walk by. But there's no perfect way to do them.
So the way it's set up, there's no perks. People will just have a fixed amount they for the campaign.
You're really quiet, like you're down a hallway. What do you mean, like as a person participating in it?
Let me change my microphone.
Oh.
I think he's saying there's like no levels. You know how like some of those campaigns you'll have more, you know, perks on the side for more you donate and stuff like that.
I don't know. What do you guys think? I don't like to do too many, because then it just gets up really to be a pain in the butt when you try to fulfill them, right? Trying to keep track of them all. I can keep track of a couple usually, but I'm thinking of, because these are also $50, right? So there'll probably be one in there for like $1. If you just want to throw $1 or more, feel free, and we'll say thanks. And then I don't know. I guess we can kind of see how it goes. I'm assuming with this many people participating, it'll either go or it won't, right? It'll either take off like a rocket or it'll just sit there, and we'll know that pretty quick. So I don't know, we can kind of play with it. If we need to, we can perhaps say put a $5 level in there, or not $5, but probably more appropriately like a $15 level, since we're trying to make this a fundraiser. And like for 15, you get one random one. And then if everybody agrees to throw like 5 of them potentially to the random pile, then maybe that would bring in some money. But I don't know if we need to do that, or if we get feedback from people that say, hey, I'd like to participate, I just don't have $50. I mean, I definitely know what that's like. Then maybe we come up with like a $10 one or $15 one where it still brings in a little money, but then they just get a random one or something. On the other end, if it goes like a rocket and there's plenty, then we can come up with all kinds of things. But I was thinking for the tiers just to do a $1 one for anybody that just wants to throw money at it and not expect anything in return. Then a $50 one and a $100 one, so that people could buy 2 sets right away. Do you guys think there should be more than that?
What I was trying to ask, is my mic still bad? Is it still?
I mean, we can hear you, but it just sounds like you're either standing on the other side of the room or like down a hallway. It's just really quiet.
Microphones, man. No, what I was asking the other night, and I don't think I ever kind of got my question across, was that when, like, say I wanted to help support it, or one of the people in the project wanted to help support it, is there not just a general donate button so that you don't get anything?
No.
That's odd to me. I don't know why.
Well, that's fine. That's totally fine. This is not supposed to be the like perfect thing for everybody in the world. This is, let's get some patches to these 12 organizations for the NRA show. And it's great if it allows people to work together and collaborate and stuff, but I'm not trying to make it an effort in like trying to figure out the perfect crowdfunding project, because the crowdfunding project is the tool to get us to the goal. And again, if we focus too much on, I won't focus too much on the little tiny individual things of the thing, because it's really just to throw a bunch of money into a pile so that everybody gets 100 patches to do with what they need to, and to see if this as a thing is something that 200 people out there are interested in making happen. If there's seriously issues where somebody's like, I have to give $500 to Tony Simon, then give fucking $500 to Tony Simon. It doesn't need to be a function of this project. You know what I mean? If somebody wants, when it's all funded, because it'll either be funded or it won't. When it's funded, we'll be buying patches at the 250 quantity number. So again, if somebody wants to say, hey, Gunstreamer is a valid project, and I want them to have even more patches, then just get with Gunstreamer and order more patches with them. But it's not going to be some sort of a function or a app in this, because there's just not functionality in Indiegogo for that. And I'm not trying to be a bank. I'm just trying to facilitate the concept.
The question was really just related to me or one person who, I mean, if I threw in $50, and I got 100 patches, I'm still saving money, but I'm still supporting the project. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that's why I was asking, if you throw in $50, I don't need to get whatever that perk is plus the 100 patches. That's my question, really, in a nutshell. All of the 12, why wouldn't all of the 12 people involved or whatever throw in their own $50?
You could throw in $50 and then just add a note that says, don't send me my patches, or give my patches to somebody else, or whatever.
Or have them. I mean, hopefully this is an effort so that y'all know each other and you can all promote each other, and y'all do decide to buy each other's patches, then you all got each other's also, right?
Oh, I would love to have the patch set, So.
I mean, half the reason I'm doing this because I want a bunch of these patches for nothing.
Right. So, well, I mean, not nothing. I don't mind, the $50 to get the set. You know what I mean? That would be cool.
At this point, it's $50. It's getting even better.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. The people involved should, if they have $50 to support the thing, they're going to get 100 patches, right? So that's a lot cheaper than paying $250 or whatever. I forgot.
Yeah, we're talking to 12 people, and I'm one of them because I'm Every Second Matters, I guess. And Clover's the other one. I mean, it's not like we're talking to 12 strangers. I don't really care if they put their $50 in or not.
Well,
if they're in my position and they don't have $50 to throw at it, then that's why we have 200. That's why we're reaching out to 200 other people.
Well, the other reason I asked was because Tony Simon was kind of, hesitating the other night about patches, and I think it's because he didn't want to spend the money. I think he thought he acted like he was. You know what I mean? That's why I asked the question when he was there. was, I think he thought that he, had to throw in money to get the patches.
Right. No,
Yeah, well, if they get clear with Tony, he should know that. But if he has any qualms, then it doesn't matter because he's not going to put any money in. He'll just get patches, so there won't be any accidental him giving me any money.
Right. It's confusing depending on how you explain it. But basically, you don't have to put any money in unless you want the set.
Yeah, exactly. And that's totally up to the individual if they want to or not.
But that's separate from those that are, getting the free patches or whatever out of the deal. I like the idea of a random patch lower tier, but I don't know an application how well it'll work. And part of the reason I like that, like my patch design, which we've got to work on eventually, I would like that to be a question mark throughout the whole thing because it's going to be something vastly
different. Prize, in other words.
Yeah, it's going to be something cool. We talked about it, so we you and I have already kind of war gamed what we're going to do, and it kind of goes with some of the patches you've done and whatever. So, yeah, it's something that I think I'm just going to put that out there, do the design, and then put that out there as, just hey, my patch is going to be really cool. And then if you had a lower tier where, I mean, maybe that would be enticing to somebody that say $10 for one patch because we're below $5 for, if you do the set, which is a killer freaking deal. But if you do $10 for one random patch, then I mean, basically they've got, a 1 in 12 shot roughly of getting, and I don't know if anybody else is going to do a patch that way, but they've got a 1 in 12 shot of getting that surprise patch too. So that might be.
No, I'm not going to do it this way, but it could be done. And I'm more than happy if somebody wants to steal this idea and go help other organizations and do it better than this, because that's 100% what I'm trying to do here. But the way that it could be done, and again, I'm reiterating, there's no possible way I'm doing it this way because I am right now in a quagmire of taxes already because of the way I do stuff. But one way that it could be done, and I'm not doing it this way, would be to say, have a tier or a perk for each of the individual pieces, and then you could get that particular one. But I'm not doing it that way.
Yeah.
But if somebody wanted to do it that way, that would be interesting, but it would be setting up an Indiegogo campaign as a store, and there would be tax implications, and then there'd be quantity issues that would not be useful for actual ordering. You're going to end up with 2 or 3 people that get the minimum order, and then other people with some incremental thing from the top to the something over minimum. Right. And that means different prices for quantity. And that means, and I can't even imagine the tax that would be in organizing who gets shipped what, but that would be an amazing thing that like a company who's in the business of doing this with a staff could probably undertake, but it would be monument. It would be like almost exponential more work.
Yeah, it would be logistically difficult for us to, or you basically, you're the one facilitating this, to be able to do that.
Yeah, this is already having to create an order with multiple people's designs, making sure they're all going to be good. And luckily, I think everybody's capable and all the designs are competent, and it'll happen pretty simply. But just the coordination of 12, luckily I've done it before, otherwise I wouldn't try this, but my company, knock on wood, seems pretty awesome, and they've done this already for me, and it was successful. So I just figure, it's worth putting the effort in. But like I say, it is definitely going to be some effort because there's going to get like a giant box of patches will show up. I'll have to split out 150 orders out of there, and then send the 12 out to y'all, and then make everybody happy. But I think it'll work. And like I say, I'm looking at it as 180. I gotta quit saying 150. Closer to 200 things will go out, and potentially I can get like 200 sign up for the Second Amendment Foundation, sign up for FPC, and put those in the packages, and kind of use that as a facilitation of getting some more info out there to people. Let them all know about the gun rights policy or something like that. I mean, I'm guessing some of them will probably know about that already, but who knows? Somebody comes in rogue and just thinks it's a patch deal or something. Maybe get some good input to them.
All right.
All right, so what's going on over here? Looks like Roosted is getting back from his 2A Capital Rally up in Minnesota. Where's Kingpin at?
Maryland, I believe.
Roosted saying they had a great turnout. That's good to hear. And they got in there and before the winter storms warnings, I guess, so that's good. Is their capital St. Paul? St. Paul, Minnesota? Is that the capital of Minnesota?
Sounds right.
Or else Minneapolis? Is that the same thing, though? So I think I know how far you had to drive. So Kingpin saying Maryland, and when's the thing going to be ready? So I think, like I said, I just got to go tweak the math and make sure that nobody, I don't want anybody to have to, I don't want me to have to pay money. So I'm going to make sure that the math's all good, and that ideally what I'll have, if it, in my experience, when I do the math the way I do it, like it factors in every single patch goes to a separate person. And of course, some people buy more than one. So when that happens, you save a bit on the shippings. And then those shippings cover all the goofy stuff. So as long as it all can work that way, then yeah, we'll set it all up today or tomorrow, like I was saying, and then it'll end sometime weeks from now, and then it'll patches will be in everybody's hands before the NRA show, because that's really the goal. And we'll have some chats together with or as many people as can be involved. I guess if we have 12. Then it won't even allow us to have everybody in there, but we'll have most everybody in there, and we'll chat about designs and maybe whatever kind of collaborations we can come up with, and I don't know, at least a couple of times before then, before they all get sent out. Dano, that was a state rally in Minnesota today. Yes, we already have the 12 people doing this project. We're gonna see if this is successful. It could just flop, right? 200 people sounds doable, but if only 50 people are actually interested, we'll know that, and nobody will be out anything except for our time. And if it is successful, I'm hoping it is, then again, we can continue to do this concept, and we'll do one with gun channels, except that instead of trying to get to 100 patches like extra or whatever, which is sort of a lot, when you start thinking about $9,000, we've never done anything near that. We've done hundreds of dollars worth of fundraisings on gun channels before, but $9,000 would be unreasonable. So we'll do it more like just to get a set of 25 made or something, which is still going to be a lot, but that might be a way to get a bunch of people on gun channels some patches to have and to trade.
All right.
So Dano, you're welcome to jump in. This isn't really a Tulsa chat, but I'm pretty sure Snob and Sarge will have Tulsa chats later on today. Well, we've been going for an hour, and I guess not everybody got the email, so I'm never sure with the blind copies if they get to everybody.
Right.
But we got nothing but dead air, so got some people chatting out there, but more like lobby stuff. This isn't really a lobby. So you got any other 2A topics? 2A media topics, I should say.
I don't have any. I can't think of anything that comes to mind.
Oh, we can dig into Benchmade. We haven't heard Tony. I bet Tony probably doesn't even have an opinion on Benchmade.
Right.
I didn't want to bring that up. I figured that was already talked out enough this week.
I was actually I had a question about it, but you said it was just 2A media, so I wasn't going to bring it up.
Well, I mean, I think that kind of is 2A media, though, because if we don't pay attention to this kind of stuff or shut ourselves down when this kind of stuff happens, then I don't know what we're doing. So we're either want to call ourselves influencers, or if we want to call ourselves content creators, right? Do we do that with direction, or do we drift? We just take wherever the flow goes, or do we have rudders and we steer? And do we try to lead, or do we just try to follow the trends and do what's popular and safe, or do we take stands? And then does the industry have to be led, and does it have to be perfect all the time? Do we have to walk in lockstep? I think there's a lot to it. So I don't know how much we want to take on as 2A media as far as responsibility or what. But anyway, Ghost just jumped in. Welcome to the chum.
Hey, thanks for the link. Appreciate it.
Just about. So you got the email then? Good.
Yeah, it came in about 5-10 minutes ago.
So I don't know. We were chatting about the project. Have you thought at all about your logo or what patch you want to do for the project?
I mean, the easy way is to just go with my normal logo, but I know you were talking about a couple of nights ago. I don't know if it was online or offline or whatever, but doing something that might be a one-off that it will never be seen again. So I might try to do something that's kind of more of a limited edition type of thing. I don't know yet. What are you thinking?
I don't know. I was thinking about that too. And when I was thinking about yours, as soon as it comes, plus it took me a while to put all this together in Illustrator or whatever. Oh, I'm looking at I'm not screen sharing. I'm looking at this picture I put together to kind of show people the patches, get them an idea, and plus the quantity and everything. And as I was putting it together, I'm like, damn, that is a sharp logo, dude. And it looks good in sewn for sure, but it deserves to be in PVC. So, I mean, you know you're going to do it in PVC at some point, but that's where I got to look at it too. Like there is that aspect of it, that since this is a kind of a thing and we're talking about making them one of 200, people are going to order them and get them a numbered set, then there's something to be said for doing something a little different. But then on the other hand, you're going to have like 2A for everyone, Every Second Matters, 2A Fund, Florida Carry and GunTube are all straight on logos also. And that's, the first run of those logos. And this would be technically your first run of logos. So I'd like to say, I don't know. I don't even think I answered your question other than to say I think there's points either way.
Yeah. Thanks for the help. I appreciate that. No, my initial thought was honestly to just do the logo, and but then we were talking, and I mean, I don't know. I'm not that smart, man. This is new to me as well, so I'm leaning towards just a regular logo. But
maybe
I don't know. When do you need to know by?
That's the thing. I don't. So I put yours down as a TBA kind of down here. I got everybody's as a TBA at this point, who I know isn't just doing their logos basically. So, I mean, I'll know by Monday or Tuesday when I need to know, right? But it'll be weeks from now. I mean, we still have to do the project and then get paid. And then I send the stuff to everybody, because, there's no point setting everything over to them without it even happening. So, you got at least weeks. So maybe do it as like an audience thing. What does your audience want? Because they're going to be the ones ultimately.
That's kind of what I was thinking, is doing a poll over on Patreon, and then maybe doing a little poll on YouTube and Gunstreamer and all of that, and see where that takes me. If it's one of those things to where I can do a one-off design that will be the only time that's ever seen, if that's going to help, create a little bit more excitement towards people buying the set, then absolutely, that's what I'll do,
Well, we're here trying to get something to drink, but then aside from that, we are about to transition into Benchmade.
So, were you gonna? I think I missed that story, but did they grind up some guns or something that they had that were voluntarily turned in?
Yeah, basically, they cut them. They chopped the receivers, basically.
And they volunteered this information to the public?
No, the police department they did it for is the one that volunteered the information.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a contract type thing.
Oh.
It's kind of a doing a favor for the local police department thing.
But then the police guy, whoever the police guy who decides to do their Instagram, I guess, says, "Hey, look what Benchmade did for us." And that's when everybody's like, "Wait, what the hell?" And then they looked into something and figured out who they're giving money to and saw that it's a bunch of Democrats. And then people started looking into whatever that source was at all these other companies. And now we're like, pretty much every day we're finding new companies that are donating to basically Democrats, like crazy anti-gun Democrats.
But you're gonna find that I'd be willing to bet if you look at every single company out there, you're gonna find that, and that's just business. And Clover and I were talking last night, and it's one of those things where business is business. You have to pay both sides because there are parts and materials that are being imported that you have to sauce up the government to make sure there are no tariffs coming in. There's all sorts of stuff that are behind the scenes in business. And I'm not trying to give them an excuse as to why they're doing that, but we also need to understand that, you might not want to know how the sausage is made. That's just business. That's politics and that's business. So, I mean, I'm not one who's all up in arms about Benchmade, because I think if you go and look at Smith & Wesson, you look at Glock, and you look at Ruger, and you look at all of these big companies, you're going to find the same thing.
Yeah, because I think somebody was saying that EOTech donates to Dianne Feinstein.
Yeah, I saw that last night, $4,500.
I can tell you for a fact Smith & Wesson does, because I've already looked that up, and I can tell you for a fact Vista Outdoors does, which is multiple brands of stuff. They encompass Federal, CCI, Savage, Stevens, just a whole host of companies. So,
I mean, all it is are greasing up for like tax breaks and different things like that.
All the way down to zoning issues, even.
Exactly.
It could be something as simple as a zoning issue, and then too, it's been also discussed that there's also the potential that what about companies that there are companies that play a political strategy, meaning that they'll donate to a very weak candidate in the Democratic primary, just to simply try to get them to win the primary because they know they'll get slaughtered in the general election, as opposed to a situation to where the stronger Democrat candidate wins the primary.
And you also have to realize when you're talking at the federal level, even at the state level, when you see donations to politicians, we don't know what committees that these politicians either sit on or chair that might be incredibly important to some of them that they're doing as a company. So, I mean, there's so many facets of this. It's not like that EOTech is donating $4,500 to Dianne Feinstein because they're anti-gun. We all know they're not anti-gun, but we also don't know what's going on behind the scenes as a business. It's about making money. Let's be real about it.
But
so we're on.
To play devil's advocate there, I mean, I wouldn't feel. I mean, I know how to make money without donating money to Dianne Feinstein.
At the international level,
doesn't matter. So you said earlier companies that whatever you look into most companies. Well, I'm not a company that ever going to do that, and I don't know if we ever going to change anything if we allow things to be done privately, or this is our business and whatever. So if they want to do stuff like that, fine. But when they're going to do stuff like that where it is public record, then why can't they be held responsible for that? And I'm not going to accept. I don't think we need to have to accept for them or make excuses for them of why they're doing this. Because just as easy as it could be a zoning thing, which I don't give them a pass on that, because if they're participating in tyranny, then that's helping tyranny, right? Isn't that just as bad as being the tyrannist to allow it by participating in it? You resist tyranny, right? So I don't give them a pass because it's the way it's done or they have to. Then they should be standing up and saying, I'm having to be extorted here. I have to pay money for this. We have their back if they got up and said, they're asking me to pay $4,500 so I can do business. Get up and have us help you. They don't expect that, but they would get that from us. Why shouldn't they get from us a question, or at least I don't know why we have to give them a pass. Why
I'm not giving them a pass. I'm just saying that I understand, why they possibly could do. I'm not giving them a pass. I'm not celebrating it. I'm just saying that, there are things that I'm not privy to, that none of us are going to be privy to as far as a business world. I'm not giving them a pass.
But that's what I'm saying by giving them a pass, is if we default to we don't know, so let's just let's not. Then that's passing. That's giving them a pass. Because if we, by exposing it and saying, hey, look what we found, that's not negative. That's saying, hey, look what we found. That's giving them an opportunity to explain themselves.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Explain themselves. I mean, I think they need to at least give an explanation. You know, what if it's a zoning issue or whatever it is, or if it's because they have to do it to play ball internationally. They should just say that, because in today's age of instant communication, these things cannot be hidden. You know.
Okay, yeah, and I'll take that right there, and I'll say, yeah, I agree with you, Tony. I think they should, but we also know how the general public works. Is if, let's say that Benchmade or EOTech or Surefire comes out now and says, hey, this is what this was for, what's going to be the first reaction? Oh, now they're just trying to cover their ass. So it's a lose-lose situation for them.
Oh, it's a lose-lose. I'm not saying anybody's winning, but I guess when you started that, I started to think, now, what happens if we don't challenge any companies? Because we're talking about these specific ones because they're in the news, but really we're talking 2A media today. So not any specifics, but when the 2A media exposes somebody and asks them to justify it, and obviously it's not going to be pleasant and it's not going to be tidy, because it's an accusation, right? And it's a discovered accusation. It's not like it's their admittance to something or their, what's the word? But anyway, because it's going to be awkward and it's going to be clumsy, it's not going to be pretty. But isn't it better that the 2A media does it? Because what happens if in the midst of an actual roll up our sleeves and have a discussion, it turns out that we need one of these companies to come to our rescue, or we need them to be a resource for something, and then the other side says, well, they paid $4,500 for fine sites, and then it's when it comes out, when we don't need it, when it's an actual disadvantage to us. So isn't there some advantage us as 2A media doing some holding feet to fire, is what I like to call it? Or are we simply, I mean, I think the other side of it, I'm struggling to play devil's advocate because it's not my opinion, but I guess
I hear you.
But people would say that we're like distracting, or we're like hurting ourselves by bringing this out to the public. But are we by hiding it?
We're eating our own, is what I keep hearing.
Eating our own, but that's what I mean. Like, if we can't hold our own feet to the fire, then what happens when the other side exposes stuff and we're all like, oh, we never heard of this before, we didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
My problem with it is this. We all know that Bloomberg said he was going to donate $50 million to his anti-gun movement, and he was going to do it all around the country. We know millionaires and billionaires in Washington, Oregon State have been donating money to push the anti-gun agenda.
You sound quiet.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's
How about
better.
now? We know these people have been pushing the anti-gun agenda, the millionaires and billionaires. Then we come to find out the companies we do business with as firearms owners, knife owners, and all that stuff are also paying the very same anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment movement. And we say, we're our millionaires, we're our billionaires. Well, it seems like our business owners in the 2A community are paying our enemies off. That's the problem. Yeah, they need to be held accountable. And because this is the latest group and this is the latest high-profile one, these are the ones we attack. And maybe because right now they have some serious anti-gun stuff going on in Oregon. Why isn't Benchmade on the front of that? Why is, Rainier Arms, the one that's selling stuff and collecting money and donating their money? Where's Benchmade? They should be on the forefront. Every time there's something in the state where any of these companies headquartered, how come it isn't on their homepage? Oh, we don't want to get involved in politics. If you own a gun or a knife company, you're involved in politics. Obviously, as we can see their donations, they're involved in politics. Why aren't you talking about the rallies? Just give the date of the rally and where. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to create a podcast. But why aren't you in on a 2A fight when we see behind the scenes you're donating a significant portion of your donations to people that we're fighting against?
That's a great question, Tony. I can't. Yeah, that's well said.
And I understand living in Jersey. Believe me, you have to do all kinds of deals and stuff as a range. You have to. It's ridiculous, but you don't have to fund them. Sorry, but you don't.
Well, even if you have to make the contribution, let's just say that in that political climate of that state, they have to pay $4,500 to Dianne Feinstein, and they're going to pay $4,500 to her Republican adversary. Okay, let's just say they're paying both sides. That's probably what's going on a lot of the time. But I will agree with this: you can make those donations for political clout to have access to those politicians, because that's what it is. It's access. You're buying access to them. But I will agree with this. Even if they are doing that, then yes, they should be at least on the front lines of the media saying, hey, here's what's going on in our state. We're against it. And this, I agree with that 100%. I'm not going to sit there and say that they're going to stop doing that, because I don't think they will. I think that's just part of business. And that's part of politics. But I will agree 100% that they should, even if they are donating, they should at least be on the front lines in their own state, for sure. 100% agree.
Oh, and Tony, thanks a lot, man. The rifle, I picked it up yesterday.
Awesome.
My wife has been laughing at me all day because I can't stop giggling.
It's a cute rifle. It's
dude, it is so funny. I talked to my FFL. The cricket is awesome, and I talked to my FFL, and he gave me some ideas of how to make a video because of something else I'm doing just to introduce people to it. So it's really going to be fun and funny, and we kick off the event Thursday, and I'm bringing that because I don't know how many kids we'll have, but once everything is set up with the optic, dude, adults are going to want to buy it for their kids. So it works out pretty well.
Well, if you don't mind, I mean, Steve McNeil at Keystone Sporting Arms, basically, he's responsible for half of that. Like, he gives me a really good discount on them. So honestly, it's sort of Keystone Sporting Arms, also. So that's why I was asking you to look him up when you went to that event up there in Pennsylvania, the outdoor.
Yeah, they didn't show up.
Oh, that's sad.
Steve McNeil. All right. Yeah. So this is really bothering me. We're going to do our podcast tonight about a couple of different things. One is EDC, but the other is talking about what went on with these companies, and they need to have their feet held to the fire, like Springfield, Rock River. It just goes on. Ruger had their feet held to the fire years ago before Bill died, and they changed up. Smith & Wesson did their thing during the Clinton era.
Smith & Wesson still donating to Democrats. So,
all right, so cool. Hold them responsible. Let them know. Put it out there.
Go. I don't want to.
Does anybody like the 40? Does anybody like 40? Maybe it's because
I do.
They keep going to Democrats.
There you go.
My problem with them is, again, they're not on the forefront of any 2A advocacy. They lay back in the cut as if somehow getting their hands dirty. Now, what people were talking about, well, the police didn't have a choice because that's how they get rid of stuff. Stop. It's policy. You can't tell me on one side these police won't enforce unconstitutional laws, but on the other side it's policy and they don't have a choice but to do it. You can't have both.
And again, do we have to rely on traditional media? Do we have to rely on mass media? Do we have to rely on national media? Do we have to rely on Hollywood media? I mean, none of them have our interest in mind here. And I think that's an aspect that, I mean, there's like Vice, and I don't know the names of all these like cool cutting edge like documentary things. I'll see them once in a while when they talk about guns or something interesting. And, like, they'll try, but they're not us. They don't really know what matters to us. They're certainly, and half the time they're not United States, so they don't know what matters to to us as a free people either. So,
and they don't have that culture either.
Right. So isn't it up to us as 2A media? I mean, it's certainly easy to be the comfortable side of 2A media where we giggle and talk about new stuff all the time, and it's all, everybody's happy. But I mean, there's times when we have to, again, I like to say hold feet to the fire, but look at the ugly side, look underneath. It's all the tubes and stuff are underneath the internet, but there's and there's 2A issues. There's some bullshit that keeps going on.
My issue with some of these people, because I've been reading the comment section because I really want to know what people think. My issue with some of it is, depending on what company it was, Benchmade is one of the go-to tactical knife companies, and everybody loves them. And you're of course invested in something that costs over $100 for a knife. So these people are defending it, and I'm like, wow. I wonder what would they say if it was M-Tech, or what would they say if it was Buck? You know what I mean? Like, would the shoe be on the other foot? Would they treat it like they treated slide fire with the bump stocks and just not care? If it was High Point doing it, would they care? Or would they go, F it, we don't need a High Point anyway, screw them? They wouldn't be so defensive of some of these companies if it wasn't something quite so popular as Benchmade, EOTech. I really don't think they would be.
You mean they took it more like an offense because Benchmade is such a, we would like to think of them as such a pillar?
Yeah.
Did they, excuse me, did Benchmade get paid to?
No, they did it as a favor, and they didn't.
Well, this is what I don't. That's what I don't understand. It's not a business decision. That's just bad business if you're not even getting paid to do it, and you've got overhead costs to actually do it. And I mean, to me, if I was Benchmade, I would say, I would think I could make more money by publicizing the fact that I turned down the offer or turned down the act of doing it. So
you're talking about
I don't know if anybody's ever stated it that way, but I've been thinking that. Thank you, Tony.
Companies do things for law enforcement. Companies do things for law enforcement all the time. When you're looking at a city of
I know. I donate to
25 or 30,000 people. You're not talking about this big, huge metropolis. So, you know, it was just a company doing law enforcement a favor, and I mean, there was no forethought put into it.
Okay, so now we're trying to give them forth. We're trying to give them something to think about as forethought next time. And if we're going to go to Chicago, are we going to LA? Are we going to go to Dallas? Are we going to go to pick any giant city and change them? Or are we going to start changing things at smaller levels where the small law enforcement says, oh, there's a kickback to this. Let's not do it next time. They go to some policeman's organization or whatever trade show, and then they are chatting with their friends and they go, oh, heck, I don't ever touch guns because those guys are vocal. Those guys care about their property.
And the other part is this. It really bothers me that, because I took a picture and I'm going to post up later, but it's like, oh, well, you have to understand they have to destroy guns that were caught in evidence or guns that were seized. I'm like, because it's funny. Because the houses that they seize and the cars that they seize, they don't destroy those. They sell them. So, I mean, really, we need to stop. We've allowed them to come up and go, we have to destroy guns that were used in crimes as if somehow that gun is now tainted with the ghost of Christmas past or something. I have no idea what the problem is, but you can buy the house where 35 gang members were murdered, but you can't buy the gun.
What about firearms? What about firearms that are serial numbers and things like that have been ground off?
That's a totally different animal, though, isn't it? Those guns can't be
I'm
sold
bringing
to
that
anybody
up.
with that.
I'm bringing that up.
Get the Dremel out and put it back on.
I'm bringing that up simply because it's one of the things to where I like to talk about all the options and all the bases.
I totally understand.
Let's say that if they did, why do they have to demonize these guns? They have to make the gun the demon. They have to destroy the gun because the gun has evil. I suggest, or I put out there, what if they didn't have to destroy? They were obligated to not destroy these guns, but instead they went to some stockpile in the desert. I like to say in the desert. And they have to create a place where they put these things. And number one, we would start to see how many accumulate. And if it is 500 million guns in no time, we'll all go, wow, there are a lot of crime guns. But I suspect, and I wonder, because I don't know, but what if there's only like a couple of hundred guns show up? And then all of a sudden, hey, what was all this about? Why are we so worried about these crime guns? There's altogether in the whole country, there's like 200 of them. I mean, how many do we even know? So, okay, so my other issue with destroying guns is anonymity and crime guns. So let's say somebody does murder somebody, and then 5 minutes later, the local law enforcement saying, hey, we're going to offer gun buybacks, anonymous, just drop it off. Now it's off the streets, and they destroy it, and it's melted. They got away with murder, literally. So
they have no weapon, yeah.
They didn't destroy them. They went to some archive, and they could do ballistics on them forever, and FBI labs and blah, blah, blah. I mean, we live in a country that has ultimate resources, and we're destroying things because they're so evil that they, like Tony says, they got like ghosts in them or something? Sorry, Ghost. I didn't mean to. That's bad.
and for me, living in Jersey right now, Department of Corrections is going to get rid of the HKUSPs. They've had them for 15, 20 years, I don't know, because we got Smith & Wesson MNPs. They're going to destroy those guns. They're going to destroy 7,000 USPs instead of selling them with the holsters and everything else because, well, they could be used in a crime. Get the flock out of here. It's not your concern if they're going to be used in a crime because you sell them and they transfer ownership. It is not the responsibility. It's like if you sell your used car and someone uses it in DUI. I mean, politically, we allowed them to get away with this BS and somehow make guns evil and always your responsibility if you sell them. That's 7,000 HKs. You know how much money that is? And they're giving it away. Actually, paying someone to destroy it.
Destroying them, yeah. They're paying to have the resource destroyed.
So the law enforcement agency does not have to document the guns that are destroyed, the serial numbers or anything?
I believe they do, yes.
Broad generalization.
Yes, they do.
There's no consistency on quote-unquote gun buyback, so they all do them differently. Yeah. I know if I can only go with the example that I was actually at here in Tucson. They've only had one, and it was such a horrible situation that the state banned them from ever happening again. But it seemed to me like people were dropping. I mean, I was standing there, and it seemed to me people were dropping them off. They were putting a little tag on them, and they were throwing them in this bin. And then allegedly, because they documented it, and they went around with a camera, they showed the bin go to the place and have them all melted down at a foundry or something. So I don't know how they would have done ballistics on every one of them. They certainly didn't attempt to. There's no way they had time to. I don't think they could have put a bore scope down every one of them. We saw at least one python, if I remember, a Colt python go in there, $1,000 gun. Just a number of, rifles that there's no way. I'm not enough of a rifle guy to know what all of them were, but it was sad. And again, there's just, I don't understand it. It's like a book burning thing. Like, let's get rid of them. They just need to be gone. I think we need to question that. And I don't know. I guess what we're trying to do here is decide if 2A media is the appropriate instigator of that, or if we're supposed to document it, or if we're supposed to look down at the ground and ignore this untidy stuff.
Well, I just want to throw out there that I will step up, and anybody that wants to get rid of the Benchmades, I will throw you can send me a message, you can send them to me. I will take your EOTechs too, and eventually, if I get enough, I'll make a shooting video of shooting these EOTechs and evil Benchmades.
And your stir fire.
We'll see.
Yeah.
No, I'll take any of those and I'll give them away at every diversity shoot. I don't care. The products are good. I have no problem with that. Is the lack of morals by the companies themselves or owners of the company.
I think it's more about common sense, Tony, than morals, really. I mean,
okay.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying. I'm just giving.
You're right though.
My take on that. I mean, if you're the PR guy at Benchmade and you're doing this for free, I mean, what gun? I mean, if you're a gun company, would you do that? Would you take guns and grind them up for free? I mean, it's a knife company. Why? I don't know. It just seems silly to me that somebody at Benchmade didn't say, I wonder if this is a good idea or not.
Well, has anybody watched their video today? Did you guys watch that video they put out? 2.5 minutes with the owner of Benchmade. No, it's on their YouTube page. It's like 2.5 minutes, and it's a really bad job of explaining themselves because they continually say they work with law enforcement, will continue to work with law enforcement, and continue to be a good business and a great business. I think he says great business or good business 4 times in 2 minutes. And there's no way an apology and like part of a sentence is we might not do that again. I watched it twice and I'm like, dude, he didn't explain anything. It was as if it was written not to say anything, but it was 2.5 minutes long. And it was really frustrating. It's either stand.
Well, that's probably because they felt like they had to put out a statement, and that's exactly what it was. It was a statement that didn't answer any questions,
Didn't answer any questions and didn't really say anything. And that's my frustration again. Lack of backbone. Stand for what you believe in. Now, if you believe helping the police destroy guns is a good thing, where do you cut that line off? Is it when they go door to door, you're going to destroy those guns too? When the red flag laws kick in and they just start nailing multiple people, you're going to destroy those guns too? Like, where will it stop helping out your PD? Where would it stop being a good neighbor?
I have a question about historical background. How have the law enforcement agencies taken care of this in the past? Why haven't we? Why is it now that we're? I don't know. I'm asking an honest question.
As far as them destroying them or what they do with them?
Yeah. Why are we?
About, if you look into it, it's about 50-50 with law enforcement agencies across the country. So it's about 50-50 that as to what they do with them. And then there's the specifics on whether it was court ordered by a judge. That makes a difference too, or if it's up to the department to make that decision. And then it also are issues that are specific to, again, if the serials are ground off or something like that. So around here, and I'm in Texas, I know small gun shops that they will receive evidence, firearms, whatever they were, stolen, and the owner. I mean, they sit around for years. Couldn't contact the owner or nobody. They couldn't find any claim where they were stolen or whatever, but they recovered them, I should say, from a drug stop or drug bust or, whatever it might be, all the way down to evidence, related stuff. And they run the gamut, and I've been in there several times, and there's there'll be a big, huge box of freaking guns, basically, and the whole corner devoted, and there'll be maybe 20 or 30. And that's collected from a department here over the course of years. And it's like, I've done it. And the reason that I know this is I've said something about it because I've seen one I wanted. And I'm like, oh, is that going to go out? And they're like, no, we got to chop that one. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, but, we got the parts. So if you find a receiver, we'll put it back together. And it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So they strip it completely down, chop the receiver, and then all the parts are there and available. So, and you're talking about in Texas that this is done too. So it really somebody said it earlier. It depends on the department, and it really does. It depends on the department and what part of the country they're in and all that. And that's why all these policies are so skewed, and there's not a uniform policy.
Yeah, in Jersey, they have to destroy the whole thing. There are no parts. They'll throw entire 1903 Colt pocket pistol into just melt it down. No matter what it is, they don't care. A Luger bring back, don't care. It's ridiculous.
See, that's where I draw a line. I think that we at least need parts recovery, because we've got firearms out there that parts aren't being made for, and this, that, and the other. There's definitely a secondary market, and that's just absolutely stupid. That
there's a secondary market, all right. One of the state police that was in charge got caught selling not only the parts but the guns themselves. When one of them was used in a crime that he was supposed to have destroyed, he was selling on the black market.
Yeah.
Well, why would local municipalities not try to figure out a way to use this as a source of revenue and have some sort of network?
A lot of them do.
Yeah,
they do that around here too.
Yeah, mine does. They take them, they sell them, and that's how they buy their service rifles and everything else. But
it's interesting.
It makes sense. Yeah,
it's interesting. I have never even thought of this and know completely nothing about it. So that's one good thing, I guess.
It makes sense. It makes perfect sense. But politically in New Jersey. And I'm just talking here and let you guys know what happens in an anti-gun state. It's not worth the political capital that they would ever lose to allow something like this to happen. There are people here that straight up will destroy their careers if they propose something like this. Anything that would be seen as pro-gun in most places in this state, most of the larger cities in this state will be crushed, and even the smaller ones. It's just that simple. They're that anti-gun here on a political level because this whole place is ran by the Democratic Party, and no one wants to. Very few want to break away from it. Like the only ones that would do something are in the far rural areas of the state, because you have to remember Jersey has a large population in urban areas, but there's like 8 of them, maybe even 12 of them, sprinkled throughout the state, and that what affects our politics.
It would be cool.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Ghost. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. You go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it would be cool if there was a program like with CMP, the Civilian Marksmanship Program, how they distribute surplus, military surplus. In that way, it would be kind of cool, even if they let an organization like that have them and let them decide what to do with them.
Yeah.
Or
I
just
mean, that's a lot of money left on the table.
The gunsmithing schools. At this point, from what I understand, when you go to gunsmithing
that
school,
would be
you're
cool.
supposed to source all your guns.
That would be cool. Yeah.
I was going to
there's
ask
a lot of-
Clover when. Okay. Go
well, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask Clover when he was talking about his local department has, let's say, this box of 20, 30, 40 guns, and they strip them down or they saw them in half, whatever they were going to do with them. Is that a police department policy? Is that a county sheriff's department policy, or is that state police policy, or is that a state policy?
Good question, and that's what I'm saying. That just depends on the agency. It literally depends on the department. It not only it's convoluted. It not only depends on the department. It depends on what those firearms were. Right.
Right.
So if it was a case where the judge said destroy them, then you destroy them, because if you don't, then you're that would be contempt or whatever
contempt,
not
exactly.
following an order would be. Right.
That's right.
So, I mean, you go to jail for that. And then if what am I thinking? If there's nothing wrong with them, then I mean, oftentimes there's many departments around here that's why I've talked about getting an FFL. I've got an in with a lot of law enforcement and know when these auctions are coming up, and you can get some pretty good deals, and they sell them like we were talking about. And then obviously, the elephant in the room is the ones that are the serial numbers are crowned off or something like that, and those obviously get destroyed. But yeah, it runs the gamut. And that's the problem with part of the problem with this. There's no standard, and it's across all departments. It's just all over the place. There's not even a majority consensus on what we do with these.
And so it's not always policy. It's just whatever the procedure. If there's not an established thing to do, they do whatever they're going to do. So it's like, oh, they're in the way. Let's get rid of them. If there's not a law or anything that they have to oblige, then they are up to do what they want. I don't think they're necessary. I don't think the answer is a national procedure or some thing. I don't have a problem with the states or the individuals doing their own individual thing. And this Benchmade bringing light to this, I think what Tony was asking, this isn't anything unusual or like out of the ordinary. It's just a happenstance. It's just that it happened to happen on a slow news day where nothing else was major news. And when it came around, enough people, it struck a nerve with enough people to go viral or whatever. And again, I don't think this is any more significant or less significant than all the other guns that are going to be destroyed tomorrow or yesterday or all throughout the 365 days of every single year that have been going on since this country's been around. There's always been that issue. But when we start talking about 2A media, and getting it back on focus to this particular topic, again, it's us. We are 2A media, and I like to think we're the new media. Do we need to walk in lockstep? Is that the best way to do things? I mean, we should be aware of each other, I think, but I think that the diversity and the separate positions that we have and the way that we pursue our interests and stuff is what gives our audiences, the people that are out there experiencing all this and evolving from old traditional media to whatever it is that we're able to offer now. This is what gives them the flavors, right? The sours, the sweets, and the pleasants and the unpleasants. And I just don't. I think this was a valuable. Spartan. I think this is a valuable experience. I don't know what to call it. I mean, it was a happening. I don't know what to call it. And now it seems to be blossoming into a bit of a pursuit and a investigation into how many companies are playing both sides of the fence. Is that a nice way to say it?
Yeah,
that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, and the part that bothers me, and I'm not. Hey, let consumers do what they want to do. I'm not even saying boycott them. I'm not saying burn your stuff. That's ridiculous. I'm just talking about how I see things. Springfield Armory, Colt, Smith & Wesson, all those people that spend money against their own interest. What if you stopped? What would happen? They're not putting every gun business out. Somehow we can get here and get in a hangout and discuss a strategy of how we're going to handle things. You telling me they can't? You're telling me all of them are so money hungry they can't come up with a strategy about how the gun industry will handle political donations? How the gun industry will actually support Second Amendment groups as a whole? instead of this piecemeal, everybody do what you want to do, and then you find out that pretty much they're stabbing us in the back with the money we give them to buy their product. Like, there's no attempt. Somehow you have the NSSF, like, that's the industry, right? That's the industry, what the heck is the word? Lobbying group. Why can't we have something together, or why don't they have something? They go, okay, this is how we're going to face this, because we're in a fight right now. Like, we're in a big fight right now. How come the gun companies and knife companies and that entire industry doesn't get together? Because understand, once they start putting you out and regular civilians can't buy these things, all of you are going out of business, because the military and law enforcement only buys guns every once a couple of decades.
You know what's frustrating there when you said that is that all the knife companies will get right behind 2A rights because it's the keep and bear arms, right? So we often, because we're activists and we're interested in the fight, when they go after blade lengths, or they go after automatics, or they go after whatever other knife thing they might go after, you know, we're right there. We've got their back, right? They don't even have to ask for us, and we're already there. We bring it into our conversations that let's not forget knife rights, right? Or knife owners' rights. And yeah, I think maybe that's another reason why it's kind of a kick in the nuts.
Yeah.
Well, I think to play devil's advocate here, and this is just the other side of this, is to answer Tony's question is, one, it's called capitalism and free market. So these companies are under no obligation to do anything that they don't want, even to their own consumers. If you don't like their product, like what they're doing, don't buy it. That's the capitalism, the free market side of things. Now, on the NSSF side, I find it very difficult to think that during SHOT Show that is run by the NSSF, I can't imagine that somewhere in some hotel, somewhere throughout the week, that there's not company heads in a room together discussing plans. Now, are they going to come up with a plan for political payments or whatever? I don't know all that stuff. I'm not privy to that information, but surely there is some kind of at least a thought process these companies have through the NSSF or whoever they choose to use to say, here's what we got, here's what we're fighting until next year, the next 12 months. Here's what we need to put our resources to, who's on board. I don't know. Surely something like that has to go on, doesn't it?
No, I don't feel that would go on at all. No, not without some prompting. Because the scatterbrain way things are headed. Again, the simplest thing, no funding has to go into it other than whatever state you're in, just post 2A advocacy events. That costs very little money on your homepage. That's a banner. Not being done. You know what I mean? So just I agree, the basic 100%, thing isn't being done. Just the basic thing isn't being done. So I really don't think there's an overall reaching thing. And yes, I understand free market capitalism, and I'm cool with that. But I'm also cool with them having to pay the consequences for what they do. And if everybody
that requires us being a part of that, because they're never going to be held to
yes, it does. Exactly.
But I think what Ghost is saying has to happen. I mean, it does happen, right? We know that there's companies that hang out together and know each other. They grow together. They complement each other, whatever. They cater to the same audiences or clients or whatever. So that must happen. But I don't know what that NSSF's role is, honestly, and it's tough to figure it out. They've been around for a while and they're large. I know they facilitate the industry, but I think, Tony, you call them lobbyists. I don't think they're lobbyists. In fact, I technically think they are not lobbyists. That would be a whole different thing. But I know they facilitate the industry, and I don't, I'm trying to, that would be interesting. I do have all of the, various SHOT Show, whatever, catalogs, from each year. It might be interesting to try to go back through those, or every once in a while they actually do put out some really good history publications as an organization, and kind of go through and see from the topics of their seminars and from the interest or what they consider valid enough to be a focus at each SHOT Show as far as the industry events, to kind of see what they consider their role to be. But it seems to be a lot about stuff that we just don't pay attention to. The like I say, the facilitation, the distribution of stuff, and the ways that people do that. Think about how gun shops have evolved, just like other stores, to have like computerized registers and software that handle things instead of registers. But back in the day, they literally would help facilitate getting the kind of registers that shops had, so they weren't out on their own as far as the business world. They would work with like signage and that kind of garbage. So really functional stuff for stores to exist and then getting stuff distributed and all that. So I don't know if they see themselves as more of like an industry, oil in the gears for industry, or because they don't seem to be very political. And unlike NRA even, who in their annual meetings leaves 20% of the floor space dedicated to nonprofits and collectors clubs and things that are not money things, not businesses. I don't see NSSF putting all that much effort into activism at all. Even the pro hunting and pro safety and the pro youth sports and stuff, they barely get a piece. So I don't know if they're trying to stay apolitical or if they've just been shitty at it and they don't realize that they've got potential. But I mean, do we even? It's not like a hidden organization that just nobody knows who they are. They don't have a Wayne LaPierre. They don't have an Alan Gottlieb.
True.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, like I said, I mean, there's one side of me that does believe in absolute free market capitalism. If you don't like what Benchmade is doing, don't buy their products, and I'm okay with that. On the flip side, I am all for. I wish these companies would get, if they're going to be political as far as monetary donations, then why are they not more political? Like Tony says. They don't have to go on the national stuff, but at least in their local state, if someone in Oregon or someone in, let's say, Wilson Combat and Nighthawk here in Arkansas or Walther here in Arkansas, if there was some anti-gun legislation, I would expect to see those companies in the forefront, and at least with statewide, putting out, hey, this is what's going on at our state capitol, contact your legislators and all that. I would love to see that. Unfortunately, I don't see it. So, yeah, I agree with Tony 100%. I wish they would be more out in the forefront of the battle lines.
How hard would it be to make a knife with the scales and the colors of the state flag and then like an engraving on there? Like
that'd be awesome, actually.
This tyranny or something, and like maybe have like, the bills that have been defeated on one side of the blade with a line through them, and then the ones that are attacking the state with some sort of other font or something. So that the knife becomes a commemorative, and then of course all the money made from the knife goes to the fight or something. Like they've got that opportunity. Instead, this is what we're talking about.
That would be amazing.
And I'm not saying this is perfect or clean or necessary even, but if we're going to look at a silver lining from all this kind of stuff, I'm just looking at that video. We posted the video, the link to Benchmade's video that you mentioned. 15,000 views, which really isn't that many. So this is inconsequential. We're looking at it like it's a big deal. 15,000 views on YouTube in a day. This is not viral. Yeah. So this is kind of a blip. But what this is going to do, those 15,000 views, I bet you, and you guys can tell me if I'm too high or too low, I'll bet you 1,000 of those views are people who are in positions of either running or telling the Instagram for their company what to do. And they're seeing this brouhaha, they're seeing the reaction to it, they're seeing
I think that's
horrible comments that are coming in, because there's nothing Benchmade's going to be able to do out of this quagmire. They have done something, and it's now been known, and there's nothing. They did something, and that they're going to pay consequences. But like I say, I'm thinking at least 1,000 other companies are watching this, and they've got to be making decisions based on this, right?
Would you also have to look at also? Oh, go ahead, Tony. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Cole Still was on it because I've been when I first heard about this, instead of doing some negative crap, what I did was just post up the companies that do support us. Well, Cole Still's post that same day, they weren't doing nothing but talking about how 2A and pro 2A and pro America they are. If you look at yesterday's post, it has a Glock and a knife on it. I'm thinking they had 5,000 comments on their page. So, that's a lot for their daily stuff. But, if you're a knife company, if you're an anything company, now is the time to start waving that 2A flag and talking about how you do support our rights.
Did you see SOG's post? They said like a HK and a knife, and then it said like, the HK's like, should I be worried? And the SOG's like, nah, or something like, we're not cutting you up or something. Like they did something like pretty
really?
Yeah.
I think that it's interesting what we're doing right here, though, and this is the beautiful side of media and freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Is instead of people out there putting memes on Instagram, just destroying Benchmade or EOTech or Surefire or whatever, there's a chance that we can see past the spin doctors. We can see past the video that Benchmade put out there. And we're sitting in a room right now having a discussion. And I think that is what the 2A media should be doing. Instead of throwing our own into the fire, we should be having these discussions with people that might have different opinions, because there are people that are going to be watching this video. They're going to agree with Tony or Clover or me or G or other Tony or Pink or whatever. And that's us. That's what this gun community is we don't have to be lockstep into one message. That's the beautiful thing, is there are so many different sides of the gun community that as long as we're having discussions, that's the positive thing. I think that when we stop having discussions and just rely on the meme world of Instagram, that's when it gets dangerous. But we need to have more of these discussions, and I appreciate this discussion we're having.
And I agree with that, and I think that it's important that we do not walk lockstep, because that shows an example of how life should be held or should happen, right? You and I should be able to agree or disagree on something and still be friends,
Absolutely.
And if the free market works, I'm a free market capitalist too, right? It will work if we just let it work, right? The people who don't want to buy a Benchmade won't. The people who do will. We don't have to fight each other over it,
Do you think Springfield Armory and Rock River have heard, have kind of figured out that they messed up a couple years ago? I bet you they have, and a lot of it's because of sales,
Yeah. I find nothing wrong with the market dictating. But I also feel, and like G says, as a Second Amendment media, as people that run podcasts and do websites, you have to keep it on the forefront that these people did this thing, just the way we kept dicks on the forefront. And we couldn't stop talking about how they stabbed us in the back. It just has to stay out there.
But
and
you can do both.
What they want.
You can do both. I can buy a Benchmade, and I can also let them know this might be the last one. If you don't, you know what I mean?
Oh, do what you want. I mean, but I'll be truthful. I don't have Benchmade money. Let me explain something. Gucci and Benchmade were never going to get my money in the first place. So there's no reason for me to jump up on some podium and act as if I'm standing against them. Hey, I got Crudo. I have Crudo knives, Battle Horse knives, and those are the ones that they donated to us. You know what I mean? So no.
Well, but see, that's the honesty. That is the honesty right there. That's the honesty I'm looking for right there, Tony, because so many people will get on their soapbox and they'll say, I'm not going to buy a Rock River, they weren't going to buy one anyway. You know what I mean? And it's dishonest, It's dishonest to say, now I'm not going to buy a Benchmade when I never had the money to buy one in the first place.
Nope.
Just be honest. That's all I want to hear.
Benchmade's a little different because you can buy a used Benchmade for way cheap, but I think that's a good point about Springfields. Like I'll be the first one to say I'm not buying Springfield, but then I wasn't going to buy Springfield anyway. Never in my future.
We talk about it on Gun and Gear Review. I was like, really, seriously think about this, and we were just talking among ourselves because we have like 4 hosts. When you walk into a gun store and you see new guns and they have the names above them, how far down the list is Springfield when you want to see what came out?
Pretty far down the list. That's before all this happened.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's before all that happened. How far down the list was Springfield? I had no inclination ever to buy a Springfield, except maybe one of their 1911s as checking them out.
I was just going to say a 1911 maybe. Not now. I mean, I'll buy a used one.
Yeah, I can get a used one, or I can go with another company. I don't have to go with someone I know tried to get a cutout.
How many people have been in the parking lot of Springfield? Show of hands.
Well, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of Springfield, because we've been down this rabbit hole a lot of times. But understand also is there's 2 sets of arguments. Let's say Benchmade or Springfield or whoever. You can sit there and say, if we don't buy the guns, they're going to hear it. We've had this discussion before. their accounting side and their CEO and their board will see sales possibly going down, but how many people buy guns directly from Springfield? So they've got their money anyways. When the gun shops buy it from Springfield, Springfield's already got their money. The only person you're hurting are the gun shops, because now they're sitting on inventory. So the argument, I'm not buying it at Springfield. Well, you're not buying it directly from Springfield anyways. You're buying it from a gun store. And the only person you're hurt. That's right. You're right. But that doesn't help that gun store right now who's already got them. They're not going to send them back to Springfield. It's up to that gun store. They're sitting on inventory. Now you're hurting a gun shop because now they've got inventory they're going to lose money on. That's just devil's advocate.
No, I mean, that's totally valid. I mean, it's not incorrect that is the case. However, how do you affect change? There's growth and there's unpleasant parts of it, but I think the Springfields, in my opinion, I'm not, I don't have any facts or anything. Just from my experience, it looks like Springfields are mostly competition shooters and like new shooters, people that are like, I want to buy a gun. Springfield has the holster and the mag holder and the mags, the little loader, right? It's like the little grip extension. It's just a nice little presentation for somebody who's like, I'm here to buy everything I need. Oh, it's all in one box. It says Springfield. I heard of that from World War II before. Let's go. Or like competition shooters, so-and-so shoots one. I want to buy what so-and-so shoots. So I think that's where they get a majority of their scratch or their sales. So how do you affect those sales? By getting by publicizing the unscrupulous things they do for the community, so that when people are making a decision for their second or third gun, right, that's when they start being more aware of what's going on and potentially making a purchase decision with intent and, not just on a whim. And that's where you have the potential to the companies like that with an awareness campaign of their business practices. So I don't think it's designed to cause a dent in their bottom line. It's designed to make people aware of their practices or their position on things, and then that comes along in over the years. Like the consequences of that happen over the years, and then as shops start to see that not only are their new models of Springfield not selling, but also their used inventory is growing and people aren't rebuying those. And then what you see is lack of sales in future years. Like you say, when they go to SHOT or whatever, and Springfield's like, how many dozens you buying this year? And they're like a big zero. Then Springfield starts to feel it. And you're right, the gun shops are part of it. They take a hit. So does every single person who bought one and then changes their mind on their opinion of the company, and they're taking a loss or they're passing that trash, what they now consider trash. The machine's the same machine. But it depends on if you want to have a grip safety on your gun. It's up to you.
I think is 100% true. And Springfield Armory isn't the only gun that the gun shop carries. So they'll sell something else. It's just they're either going to have to sell those Springfields at a loss. And I think you can, I don't know, I thought you could send some of that stuff back if it didn't move. But if you can't, all right, then you sell it at a loss. But you get some money back for it. And again, that's how you affect change. And you won't order any next time if you can't move the ones you have.
But they do take a hit, you're right. And especially like a stocking dealer or somebody that's got the banners up and they went all out and bought every model and every color.
Yeah, and I mean, how many of those did take a hit? How many of those
I'll tell you
did
something.
flinch?
Yep. I'll tell you something funny that when I was, this is last summer when I was at an IDPA match, and Springfield, they like to donate guns, and most IDPA matches, if you go, at least the bigger ones, they'll have raffles. And the big one is usually they give 2 or 3 Springfield XDs away or whatever, And I remember I was in Tulsa at a shoot, and the guy wins a Springfield XD, and he said, "Give it to somebody else. I don't want it." And that was pretty profound, and you're surrounded by 200 other, competitive shooters. He wins a free gun and says, "I don't want it." That made a pretty big statement right there.
Yeah, it did. Now, I'll go ahead and say Springfield Armory donated crazy amounts of stuff to us 2015, 2006. It took me years to give the stuff away they gave me. So I felt that they were pro 2A. And then I heard about the cut out, and then I saw how the industry reacted to the point that people would win Springfield swag and tell me they won't want it. Like they were like, "Yeah, I don't want the hat. I don't want the cutout. I don't want any of that."
Well,
And
I
I'm
think
like,
that
"Well, it is what
Springfield
it
is
is."
very pro two-way. I don't think that they're pro free market. What they were trying to do was to
Oh yeah,
let
get a cutout.
the small guy, the little man, be non-existent in the state of Illinois.
Oh,
It wasn't that they were saying they're anti-gun. They were just saying we're pro Springfield. You know,
the anti-gun part is that they used the Second Amendment to do that.
That's
they
very
did it,
true. Yeah.
used it, but they did it
Yeah.
in a Second Amendment realm. If they would have been like, hey, nobody should be able to have 1,000 square foot business that's gun related, and then they have 1,200 square foot building or something, that kind of shenanigans, like you're saying, that's capitalism, right? But and that's, you could have a debate on that. But I'm thinking when they start making it where gun shops can't exist, that's kind of fun.
Well, yeah. I'll concede that. I'll give that one to you. Damn it, G. You make sense too much.
But yeah, I mean, I told anybody and everybody. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just curious I had a question for people. I mean, it seemed, I was always curious about that situation where it seemed like, and maybe it's just because I'm down here in Tennessee, it didn't seem like there was a lot of pushback from dealers. It's almost like they've been beat down so much they just kind of rolled over. And
well, I drove up there to the Gun Rights Policy Conference in October, so it was still not yet happened, right? It had still been like kind of pushed aside. I don't know really what happened. I guess it had not been voted on. So since then, it has been passed, I think.
Right.
But when I talked to a couple of them, or the one guy at least, it came up because he was very cool about chatting about stuff, and I thought to ask him, and he, I mean, basically spit on the ground when I said Springfield. Like, he was not happy, and it was a direct, like, what do you call it? Like, it was, they considered it direct attack, like beyond the pale. So they definitely, I mean, I'm taking that as an indication somebody just walked in and talked to a guy, and he's willing to get that upset, from just total strangers walking off the street. That's got to mean other shops are in similar mindset, right?
Yeah.
I was just surprised that there wasn't more pushback from the people in the state.
There probably were, but understand that Cook County runs that pretty much the mass part of that state. So you could have 90% of that state against it, but if the people that control the legislator in Cook County, they want to vote for it. Goodness, I'm sorry, my dog's going nuts.
Yeah, blame it on your dog.
I've got my chew toy. Sorry. I want to mute real quick.
Hold on. That means that dog needs a belly rub. So let's take a pause for that dog.
She's gotten plenty of belly rubs today.
Oh, that's funny.
I will say that these kinds of conversations are very productive, because I remember when the whole Springfield thing happened and all that, my knee jerk reaction was to defend business, right? Because I'm a business owner, but over the years I have been not weakened. I've been convinced more and more that, as a business, I can do more. I don't have to make those types of decisions. I do have a choice. I have choices in what I do, and I just think they have to start thinking. They have to start making better choices. And that's what I was talking about earlier with Benchmade. Nobody said to themselves, nobody said, oh, I wonder if this is a good idea. I don't know. It doesn't sound like it happened.
I want to be fair. Again, small town. I mean, small city. And I think the police station was like 1.5 miles away. So I'm sure they had a relationship with many of the cops. I'm sure it was all, but like Tony said, business is business, image is image. How bad is this hurting them? All of a sudden, you didn't think about that. I'm like, well, they need to think about it. And the big part with me is they have significant legislation happening in Oregon right now, and Benchmade is not even a part of that at all. Why not? Why aren't you there politically? If you're donating to anti-gun forces, why aren't you helping pro-gun? Why don't you have a link? Why don't you have some of the groups or something in the state of Oregon, some of the pro 2A groups, some of the pro knife groups? Why isn't it on your homepage? Like just stuff.
And think about if that was their like banner and they were known for being something, and then this came up, people would be like, "Oh, that's annoying." You know, I would think it would probably have a different splash, right?
Yeah. When I know, only because Chad Wallace lives in Oregon, he's the host of the podcast that I'm on. So he tells us about the legislation, you know, prior to the show, because our whole show is not about politics. But prior to the show, he talks about the legislation that's happening in Oregon and what they're doing. And they have a rally coming up next month. That should be on every Oregon-based company's freaking front page. It should be. If you're
That's a great point.
Related. Everybody doesn't have to be Martin Luther King Jr. to be on the cutting edge of the civil rights legislation with 2A. You just don't have to be. But you can spread information. You can help. You can have a banner to take someone to the 2A groups and the knife rights groups in your state. You could do all of that. And no, just putting a banner for the NRA up in the corner is not enough.
And that's a discussion that we've been having for a long time. Also, it's not just with the manufacturers, but with the bigger channels. You know, if you're Military Arms or Iraq Veteran or Hickok or Suits or something like that, why are they not out there at least putting whether they're going to attend it or not? Why can't they just do a 2-minute video? Hey guys, just want to let you know there's something going on. If you're in Oregon, there's this big rally coming up next month. Please get out there and support this for the Second Amendment. You're not saying that you agree with what's going on. You're not saying that you're going. But it's the same thing. Yeah. These big companies and these big channels, they do have a responsibility because of their reach and their massiveness that they could get information out to more people. That's a great point.
Yeah, and again, if you don't want to, because I've seen the comments and pushback on Mac's channel, on Military Arms channel's social media page, and some of the others, people go, just stick to guns. We don't want to hear about politics. Well, they're the reason, those very same people that don't want to hear about politics with their firearms are the very same reason a bunch of these people are anti-gun politicians are elected in the first place. Because they'll sit on it, they're the gun owners who sit on their butt and don't participate in anything. You don't have to dedicate your channel to it. But doing a 1-minute commercial for the thing that's happening in your state capital,
or a quick Instagram post, just put a flyer up.
That's fine. Just participate because you do have that reach. And if people don't click on it or read it, that's on them. But at least it's there. Every week, I'd posted when your primaries were, all of last year's election season. I posted that every week, and I talked about which states were next and what dates were the primary. It didn't take me that long. And posting the exact same poster, I did it once a week. So what? You know what I mean? And it just gets information out there and do what you will with it, because I'm not going to say anything but vote pro 2A. That's my entire thing. You know what? I'm not going to tell you to vote for a party or an individual. Vote pro 2A. Do your own research.
Let me take a second and play host and ask you guys who are on the panel if you got wind in you left, because I think we got another direction we can go from this.
Okay.
Or we can end it because we've been going for a while. But we do these 2A workshops on Tuesdays and on Saturdays. It's open invitation to anybody who considers themselves part of the 2A media. People who like to create content. If you have questions or if you have area of expertise you'd like to share, anything from the tools that we use, the cameras and the phones and the software, to the platforms, to the types of stuff, to the networking, to the projects like we're working on with the patches and trying to promote some of the boots on the ground efforts that are out there. This is a continual effort that we'll continue to do, and we want to thank our Patreons on the gun websites that allow me to take the time to host it. And I want to thank people who join us both on the panel and in the audience to take part in these each week. They happen live on Tuesdays and Saturdays in the afternoons. And then, of course, they're archived on the Gun Website's YouTube channel, on the Gun Website's Gun Streamer channel, and on the Minuteman University channel over on Gun Channels, so that they're available as a resource or something that people can listen to. Or I try to put notations in if we have a specific topic or some kind of information. So again, I don't know if you guys still have some life in you. I see some other people joining us. Rich just jumped in on the YouTube side. He's welcome to join us as well. But this whole thing with Benchmade, there's a couple of ways we can take this if you've got the time and the interest. One would be the idea that how much of this was a way to get attention. I know that some of the initial reaction to the Instagram posts, for example, were another commotion in order to get views. You know, it was a down day in the ratings or something, so this was an attempt, desperate or not, to point the finger at something to keep controversy and keep clicks. And it certainly created clicks. And then, of course, with some of the back and forth, there's been some discussion on whether channels with large reach should talk about political issues or that they should soft pedal politics in order to be interesting to people and be a more of an outreach and an ambassador to the shooting sports or to the Second Amendment. And again, these are pretty big topics. So if everybody's winded and you got other things to do tonight, we can take these to another day since we do these twice a week. Or if you got time, we can jump in. What do you think?
I'm good either way, man.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just, writing show notes for my show tonight while we're doing this. So I'm cool.
Right on. So you've got a show tonight. I know that Sarge will have a show later. Snob has a show tonight. Does Rich have a show also? No. Is this tomorrow? Somebody else have a show on Saturdays? I know Rick had one earlier today. Travis, of course, at Caliber Corner in the morning. Well, what do you think? Was this just another, not even an attempt because it was successful, was just another ratings manipulation? Was this just a way to throw somebody under the bus and get a whole bunch of new views because a whole bunch of people got tons of views on these?
Oh, no. I don't think so at all.
If it wasn't from Benchmade. It might have been in the political from the police department, but I don't think it came from Benchmade. No.
No. I'm thinking the Instagrammers who really flew with this, and I'm guessing some of the YouTube videos, because I'm seeing YouTube videos with tens of thousands of views. I think Tony has to jump out. Thanks for joining us, Artisan Tony, Chattanooga 285.
See you, Tony.
Later.
Hey, thanks again, Tony.
Thanks, guys.
I think the same people that always take a little ember and stoke a flame. I think you've seen those people come out in the droves and do what they normally do, which is blow on an ember and stoke a flame. You had some people that you don't hear from very much, and most of those were making more articulate cases about things. But we've got all types of people in this medium, so.
Yeah, I mean, it was just something for some of them to just talk about, jump on, and be a devil's advocate to get, post and clicks and comments on their page. I'm not trying to be a devil's advocate at all. This has happened. Let's try to get something positive out of it for the entire community. And yeah, if I can browbeat every firearms and knife company to actually put a link to what's happening locally, and stir people up that way, or at least give them contact information, that would be awesome.
The sad thing is you're going to see these Instagram posts and these little short snippets on YouTube that people put videos out, and they're going to get massive views, massive likes, massive clicks, and all that. But the problem with that is you have a conversation like this that we've had a discussion for the last couple hours that has been part devil's advocate, part our own actual beliefs, and we're all sitting in a room laughing and still friends and all of that. That this is a great experiment as to what can happen. Like Clover said, if you come with an articulate message with actual facts instead of just being the emotional reactionary people that a lot of people on Instagram are, this right here is much more important than a meme. Unfortunately, that meme's going to get a lot more coverage, and that's what's sad.
And there's, and the reason for that is that drama sells. And then also you have a whole lot of people out there that enjoy misery, unfortunately. I mean, they're not happy unless it's gloom and doom and, there's no positivity. And that's what aggravates me to no end. Is I think we've got to do things like this. And we've got to come together in a positive way. And the sad part about that, like you point out, that's not a popular thing to do. It's popular to rant and rail and rave and stoke the flames of discontent.
I've been trying to do unification talks for a couple months now, and most of it has been received very well. But it is funny, like you said, Clover, there are people that aren't happy unless they're unhappy. That I don't get a lot of comments or emails from people that are like, heck yeah, man, that's awesome. We need to have more of these discussions. The vast majority are the hate emails. How can you be, you're a betrayal to the Second Amendment for talking about that? How can anyone be betraying the Second Amendment about trying to talk about unification and a process that could bring us together? But see, that's the thing. There is a part of our community that don't want to be together. Like you said, they just want to howl at the moon and find the most negative gloom and doom story they can find. And they don't realize that without an actual plan, an actual mission, and an actual vision of the future, it doesn't matter. If we're not going to sit there and have discussions like these and actually talk about our differences, because our differences is what makes us stronger. If we all agreed on everything, then talk about the ultimate echo chamber. But having different opinions on topics like this is how we can all come together with a stronger message saying, hey, we've got people in this room that don't agree on everything, but together we can form a pretty strong message going forward.
Well, there's a lot of people
I agree
out there.
100%.
There's a lot of people out there that's absolutely true. There's a lot of people out there that are not thinkers. And so, we're tasked with, I think, trying to provoke thought, trying to get people to really think about stuff, look at things big picture. Because the one thing that aggravates me is you start talking about whether we're dealing with Benchmade or the NRA or whatever the topic is, and I start proposing plans and solutions. And what if we did this? And well, what if we did that? And what if we did that? And simply because my tact, TACT, is not in alignment with theirs, then I'm somehow anti-Second Amendment. Not because I'm sitting here wanting to take all the guns away, not because I'm telling you that shall not be infringed does not mean shall not be infringed, or I'm parsing the militia phrase in the Second Amendment, or anything that's tangible that would make me anti-Second Amendment. It's because my tact doesn't align with your tact, and because I don't do it or want to do it the same way you want to do it, then I'm somehow anti-Second Amendment. And we've got to get over that mentality as well.
Oh, I catch it a lot because I try to actually solve problems, not just point them out. Want to be helpful.
Yeah.
If you bring people together and build things up, one of my sayings is I want to be like the tide and just all ships rise. We all work together. We can all get up out of here and do bigger things if we all work together. There's no reason to tear stuff down.
Right.
Let's build it up. Now, if people don't want to buy a product, great. Moving forward, how can we make sure this doesn't happen, or at least be more honest about how and why it happens? You know what I mean? Politics is politics. I live in an anti-gun state, and any gun company here is getting their butts kicked. I mean, we're the reason you can't have smart guns, New Jersey, because they came up with a law while that was still science fiction, that anybody who creates a smart gun, if it's sold commercially, that's the only gun that can be sold in New Jersey as a handgun, period. You have to stock it, and you can't sell anything else. That's how stupid this is. This is where I come from. So this is the politics here. So, yeah, I understand having to play. But doing what these guys did, listen, there's better ways to do this, or there's more ways to help out the Second Amendment community than they have been doing.
And I want to kind of piggyback on what you're saying about these companies earlier. We've talked about this several times, but
hold on,
the companies.
Tony, were you addressing that to Instagrammers or to like the companies that are doing stuff without thought?
Everybody.
Okay.
Everybody.
Sorry, go ahead.
Everyone has a reach. All communications is all communication is manipulation, and you can either do good or do bad. Let's try to do good and make it better for all of us.
Okay, sorry, Ghost.
Oh yeah, no. What I was just saying is, I love the idea what Tony's saying about, in your state and everyone that's listening to this. And like I said, in my state right now, it's a small state of Arkansas, but I've got Nighthawk, I've got Wilson Combat, I've got Walther, I've got the headquarters of IDPA are here in the state of Arkansas. And why wouldn't you, if you're listening to this, find out what 2A companies at least have an office or a factory or something in your state? Call them and ask to speak to their media director, and email them and say, hey, would you please put on your Instagram or do a Facebook thing about this to get more people to understand that there's this legislation coming down the line in our state. You're here in our state. We need your voice. Tag them. Do a post yourself on Instagram and tag that company. Ask them to repost it. Put them on Facebook. Tag them in a Facebook post. Ask them to repost it. If a lot of people in every state get hearing these messages, maybe they would start doing more. I don't know.
Hey, Instagram and Facebook are free. Might as well try it. They might ignore it.
It can't hurt,
Yeah, they might ignore it. Keep doing it. Because really, I don't know about anybody else, but since I've been doing this in 2015, and we've had a recall attempt of one of our state senators, and we've had multiple rallies, and pretty much I see the same 200 to 300 people come out to those. And I mean, it's cool because we all know each other, but really it's not cool because we should be growing much bigger.
Well, don't get discouraged, because growth, as far as people that are willing to come out to an organization, is one thing, but if those people are becoming effective in their reach, then they can be indicating a larger and larger reach, that doesn't necessarily have the time or the inclination to show up. But I wanted to get back to the direction of this particular phenomenon last couple weeks or whatever, with the Benchmade thing, and now the Surefire and the EOTech, and this idea of people with some kind of 2A media, because I've seen it on both videos and Instagram, which are what I pay attention to, but I'm going to assume that blogs and forums and other things are experiencing similar. But when someone with, let's say, just reach, because somebody that doesn't utilize the potential of their reach for anything other than, furthering of their own project, or basically that's usually their goal, then the people that would take an instance like this one, that may or may not have significance in the greater, community this time around, but it's an indication of the reaction, the casual way that they'll exploit, I'm going to say, a situation like this, and then move on to the next thing, because tomorrow it's a coupon code for T-shirts or a lower hand guard on something, and then 6 weeks from now, when another potential bubble like this, or whatever you want to call it, a happenstance like this, has a potential for views, there'll be a post or a meme or a video or a blog, and then it'll be followed up with, again, a coupon code to an affiliate link or something. Is there consequence to that? Is that useful? Is that actually, because I was kind of mixing this with that other topic, that people with reach shouldn't be talking about politics because it's so ugly, and it's shouting at the viewer that it's unpleasant, and then it's going to turn people off from our community, and that there's others with smaller channels that are more active, that it's their responsibility to keep these conversations going. So is there consequence? If we're using this example of a way to hold Benchmade's feet to the fire, is there a way to look at this as the individuals who, I'm just going to use the word, exploit a situation like this, if they're only getting their own gain out of it, and then the audiences, is there something we can talk about with the audiences there?
Well, I think what you were saying earlier about the bigger channels versus the smaller channels, and obviously in the grand scheme of things, the bigger channels have much more to lose by being political. They might have contracts, they might have whatever that might, change the way they're accustomed to living. the
But
money
I
that
don't
they're
mean the ones
making.
that said nothing. I'm talking about the ones that basically dropped a meme and then went on. But they definitely were part of this one.
Definitely,
Maybe
yeah.
not long term, you know, they didn't instigate it, but certainly perpetuated it. And then again, it
Leave
wasn't
it for the smallers to run with it, I guess. That's what you're saying.
like let the consequences be as they may. This was just a passing thing, and I'm on to the next thing. Keep up with me. But you know, they can't be bothered with the repercussions of it. To them, it's just another opportunity for some views.
Well, I think that's probably exactly what's happened to a certain extent. Is we'll find out if there are these people that are bigger that are dropping the memes or putting a video out. If they're still talking about it a week or two from now or a month from now, then they're invested in this process. But if they just put that one Instagram post or that one video and you never hear them talk about it again, then that's exactly what they were there for. They were there for quick views and quick clicks, you know. So, you know, as far as the smaller people, the smaller channels, whatever you want to call them, taking the ball and run, I think that's kind of why we're here, though. That's where we fit in. And I say that for me, and I'm not speaking for anybody else, but I feel that's kind of where we kind of fall into this community of the new media is if no one else is willing, then I have much less to lose in the grand scheme of things in the bigger channels. So I'm not thinking about, well, man, I might not get a gun from so-and-so anymore, or I might lose a contract with so-and-so. I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking what I feel is right or wrong. And I think that as you get bigger, I think that you have more variables to consider when making a political statement. I personally don't care what people think of me. I'm going to say what I think. And if you don't like it, you don't have to watch. But I think that as you get bigger, you do have those different variables. But I think that there were a lot of people that were there just to get the quick hits, the quick views, the quick clicks on Instagram, the thumbs up, the hearts, and all of that, just to maybe show that they are aware that this happened, and hopefully they can look like a martyr almost.
Yeah, I've heard the reason that some of these bigger channels go, you know, people don't want to hear it. I'll lose views. I'll lose followers, contracts. What do you stand up for? And again, it's just a question, a little accusatory, but frig it, I'm asking it. What do you stand for? If all you stand for is the money you make, all right, cool. But don't keep jumping in and out of the pool. You jump on this to get views on your videos or get clicks on your Instagram, and then you bail out of it. Well, you can't say at the same time that you don't want to deal with politics, because this is pretty much what surrounds this move. Right. The entire thing is politics.
Yeah, and
either
I think
get in the pool or get out the pool.
And the sad part about that is that it doesn't take you putting out 3 videos a day ranting about something Second Amendment. It doesn't even take you ever making even a Second Amendment video or anything. You could be involved in this. You could be involved, in the community level in some way or the state level in some way. It's not like you have to be this hardened Second Amendment person. It's just that you're pitching in and helping with the cause, like G-Web says. You're pitching in and helping pull the rope. You don't have to shoulder all the burden.
At all. Yeah, because they act as if somehow their channel has to go from blowing up stuff with a gun to meet the press. And it's like, no, it doesn't. Post what happens in your state capitol. Yankee just did a 42-second video talking about one of his the project that he's doing, the pistol project. Just put it at the end of a video. You can do that once a week at the end of a video that you're going to have a rally at the courthouse and yada yada, and that's it. Or tell people to go register the vote, or just be part of the process to make the Second Amendment community better. And get more people in it. Maybe your guys don't want to get. Yeah, go ahead.
As you mentioned that, I'm thinking like some people are just not right, and it's frustrating, but who cares? Let them go, because they're just not going to do it. We can bug them every once in a while, especially when, like, I guess I was asking, when they get into a situation like this, or you know, if they're going to talk about it, then they can't, like you say, just step away and act like they're, oh, it doesn't mean to talk about it. You talked about it first. Like, come on, you participated in the conversation, follow through. But what we can do as individuals who participate on platforms and as an exercise is, like you said, if you want to get information out there, you can put that in the comments of a video. And I encourage anybody who's out there that knows of a local, like Roosted went to the Minnesota 2A rally today. If you know of an upcoming one and you want to post it on the comments of our videos on YouTube or on Gunstreamer, on gun channels, I highly encourage you to do so. Not only is that useful for the human beings that might see it, it's an excellent exercise for yourself to get used to and accustomed to doing that simple, repetitive task, because it has immense consequences on the internet. The way the internet works, when you flip it over, like the Matrix, you know, it has a bunch of wires and tubes and stuff that connect everything. So every time you create a link to an event or a worthy organization's website or something, you're creating what's called a reciprocal link, and the internet uses the number of those reciprocal links to rank or to decide what, you know, in what order to display these when someone makes a search. So if you do that exercise in posting events or appropriate information about an organization that might be on topic in the comments of anybody's videos, that's extraordinarily useful for the organizations. And I don't know too many people who are going to mind seeing that appear in their comments on any platform. And if they do, well, I'm going to say as politely as possible, fuck them. And that shows you where they stand, right?
Yep. It really does.
But I just thought, like, you know, that is a frustration. And it's frustrating for me because I know some of these people and I want to shake them by the collar sometimes and be like, what the hell are you creating audience for? I mean, you probably would like to hear some of the shit that's been said to me when I've bugged people about why do they even create audience? You know, what's it for? Why do you do this? You know, is it for fame or is it for some real effort? And not everyone's in it for the same thing, but they're out there participating in platforms that you're a participant of. Utilize platforms.
Yeah, we're not going to get everybody in. Certain people are just going to be who they are, and that's fine. But yeah, call them on it. Call everybody on it. What the heck? Maybe that's the way you get change done. Maybe somebody doesn't want this to be known. All of a sudden they straighten up and fly right, or they just double down on it, and they'll probably lose audience anyway. People are fickle. I just want something to wake us all up before it's too late.
I hear you, and I kind of asked that question with a lead up that I would probably have kept going, but you guys started answering the question. But I guess the follow up to that, or the lead up that I was going towards, was as audience. Of course, we can't tell audience what to do, but we can certainly experience audience, and over time, you get to understand some cyclical nature of the group that watches stuff, right? And, you know, it's not going to be the same people all the time, but they'll act in a very similar way. You know, it's like you don't see the same geese flying by, but geese fly by all the time. And after a while, you know when they're geese because of the formation they're in, right? So there's, to some extent, you can kind of see patterns and things like that. So with audiences, let me use another analogy. If you've got a piece of tin can or something, or a piece of metal, and you start bending it back and forth, at some point it breaks out of metal fatigue, right? Like, it will wear out, even if it's the strongest metal. Like, at some point you wear it out when you just beat it on one edge over and over and over, it's going to fail. So an audience might be as resilient or interested as possible, but when they continue to see the same back and forth, and, you know, if they're interested in the platform or they're interested in the concept of seeing stuff online, if they are accustomed to being online and on a platform or spending this amount of time online each day, but what they get from the big players are the back and forth of the piece of metal, at some point they're going to leave, right? And all these people that are creating alternative content are going to be more and more appealing as those people get frustrated and disappointed at the lack of potential or the lack of intent or the lack of direction that some of the larger entities have. Or am I super optimistic? And I like to think we're going to get to a place where audiences are like, hey, you know what? I have a choice, and this is boring. What else is out there?
I mean, because I don't know when the last time was that I watched a TikTok video or a demo ranch video or one of his other side channels. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing every time. Like with Hickok, you see him take a gun down to the range, shoot it for a half hour, and then talk about it, and then you know what you're going to get.
I think as people fall off, new people show up, and it just the ebb and flow, and it stays like that. So maybe they don't have to change because they know so many people only going to watch a 45-minute Nut and Fans video before they go, you know what? I know enough to know not to come back here. And then somebody else will slide right in and start doing the same thing. Your audience grows, shifts, and moves.
Yeah, I can't say that. I mean, you got to think of how many new people are becoming introduced into the gun community, and they see all these top dogs, and they'll sit there and it's like, wow, let me watch his video for a while.
Yeah, I think you outgrow it as you grow with it, and you get to a certain point, and maybe you step off and go to somebody else, and you go out, and maybe you circle back around to it if you end up liking it. But yeah, some of these dudes, hey, maybe they don't feel comfortable and they're just about getting paid. So you can't make them do anything. But I think if somebody stays in long enough, especially with people like us talking about it, you realize maybe that person isn't bringing anything to the table but whatever he does for his half hour, 40 minutes on the channel. This is just the same over and over again. You notice that he's never pushed any Second Amendment anything, or he's never done anything meaningful other than some silliness. You know what I mean? Some firearm silliness like FPS Russia. I mean, I don't know what else he's done. I'm just talking about a channel like his. There's just shooting stuff and blowing stuff up, and it never gets deeper than that. Is what it is.
Yeah, there are channels that are obviously out there for entertainment, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We need to be entertained. There are channels that are out there for education. There are channels out there that are more two-way, and everyone has their little niche that they're out there for. But if you're going to, this is just me, if you're going to be in the two-way community as far as media, you don't have to make your channel about the two-way, but it'd be nice every now and then to drop in a little snippet about the two-way somewhere in your content,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't want to dictate to anybody what to do. Just trying to give ideas about how we can get together and do better.
Exactly.
I'm going to play host again first. Gunloving Grandpa Stanley has asked twice now, and I threw it in the side chat, but I didn't want to interrupt because we were kind of chatting. But Tony, what time is your show tonight?
Oh, no, my show is recorded, and then I put it out later. It's done on Anchor, so there is no audience.
Oh, okay. So when does it get released?
I'm going to release the latest one Sunday morning, which is tomorrow morning. We recorded that 2 days ago. And this one we're recording now will probably be put out Thursday because I have my diversity shoot and we can't record on Thursday like we usually do.
Ah, gotcha. So this isn't a live thing that they have an opportunity to watch. This is just you're going to go record a show.
Yes, we're going to go record a show. Maybe soon, once I get my computers modern, as in the last 7 years, we can do that.
Now, where are you posting that?
I post through Anchor and through Spreaker, and then they post on things like iTunes and everything else.
Yeah.
Google Play and all that. So my show is out there on most podcast apps. 2A4E podcast, or the Second is for Everyone podcast.
Next, a question from Kingpin is, what good Second Amendment magazine to buy? He gets Recoil. I don't know. I shouldn't assume Kingpin is a guy. They get Recoil now, but it's more for reviews than news. It's 2A magazine to buy. To be honest, I don't get any 2A magazines intentionally. Some come in the mail. Like I somehow get. I don't pay the NRA anymore, but I still get the NRA magazine. Somehow they have enough money to send me the magazine still. And then I get occasionally, probably from SHOT Show or something, I get like weird magazines out of nowhere, like maybe 2 or 3 issues. I sometimes look at them. I get a Boy Scout one. I get an Eagle Scout one for being an Eagle. And I like I'll thumb through it because it's sometimes interesting, and I always think, oh, I'm gonna look at this. I can't even literally remember the last time I looked at a magazine, like actually sat down and looked at one without like a project or something where I needed to find an article. So I don't have any 2A magazines that I buy or look at regularly. Do you?
Not regularly, but I'll buy like concealed carry. I'll buy a couple. There's a couple concealed carry magazines that I will look if I see one in the grocery store or something. I'll pick one up, but it's not like a regular thing.
Usually, magazines, with the print and everything else, if there's a story in there, it's usually a month or two late.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I go to online sources for all my 2A news.
I've got Texas State Rifle Association does one for members, and it's called The Sportsman, and it's pretty good. It kind of runs the gamut of what all the articles are about in there. It's not cover to cover 2A stuff, and a lot of it is state related. So that's not something that I would guess getting a membership would necessarily benefit you much in another state.
And I don't even know of many magazines, at least to the national level, that are going to be the political side of the 2A. It's probably more just showing off the newest guns and holsters and all that. I mean, I don't know of any national publications that are
and a
strictly
lot of that
political magazines.
Yeah, and a lot of that pink end on is time sensitivities. Is why that is, I think.
Get a bunch of like newsletters and stuff and email and stuff, but I don't know if you consider those magazines or not.
Yeah, I do most of my stuff online too. I mean, I just read articles online because I went and subscribed to their newsletters and whatnot. So I get that almost on a weekly basis from places.
Yeah, usually the Second Amendment associations that you're members of send out weekly or daily email updates. So
yeah, or multiple times a day sometimes.
Yeah.
I hope to eventually have the resources to do one that is sort of like an almanac. So that's what I'm going to model it after, and let people know about important things like the Gun Rights Policy Conference, be aware of the industry things, maybe let people have some insight to some of the other stuff that's at like next level, maybe some of the hunting industry shows, the stuff I put on gun calendars and the stuff I try to mention on the Daily Gun Show and stuff like that. But I would like to eventually get that to be a way to create a thing that can promote some of the shops and museums that are out there that are interesting. I think of like when I'm traveling and I'll stop at like a rest area or some like hotels and stuff, they'll have like, things that are interesting about the area. And sometimes they'll have like a little booklet or magazine style thing for free, and it'll have information. I'd like to eventually do something like that. That's not necessarily a monthly periodical, but maybe a couple of times a year, just to be strictly like, like licorice, like just all 2A and not anything like articles or anything like pictures, really just like a farmer's almanac, except instead of planting seeds for crops, it's planting liberty.
Nice.
One of those things that doesn't need to exist, so it's not like there's people throwing money at me for it, but I'd like to see it exist one day. So next, we got one from Kingpin. Oh, I threw out there, we got 25 people watching. How about 25 questions? So thanks to the people that are throwing questions out there now. So from Kingpin there, do you think as an influencer, you should care what people think about you?
Do I think that we should care what they think about us?
Well, as you, the individual, I suppose. In other words, what is your persona? What is the word for that? Like, is your personality or whatever like a necessary factor?
I think that if you privately polled everyone, not in a public forum, I think everyone, and that's just a natural reaction. Everyone wants to be accepted. Everyone wants to be liked. So obviously having the viewers, them liking us is important to all of us to a certain extent. I think that some people put it as more of a necessity than others. But I think that if you're consistent in your message, you're consistent in your personality, and you're consistent in what you do, the people that are there for the long haul are always going to be there because they like your personality, they seem to like you, they like your message. So I think that if you're just consistent, you're going to find a base of people that are going to like you, or they wouldn't continuously show back up. So I don't think if you're doing it to be well liked, I think that's the bad thing. If you do it for a message and then you get a strong contingency of people that follow you and like your stuff, they're going to like your personality naturally. I don't think you should try to go out there to get people to like you. That's just my take.
I 100% agree. You have to be you. I mean, yes, get an audience whatever you feel, I guess, they want, as long as it's you. Now, I get feedback from the show we do, and people like how it is, and we keep doing the show. But it's me and Sean, and we just do what we do. I can't be somebody else. One thing I do choose to do on my on-air personalities, I mean, not on-air personalities, but when I do something like this, I try not to curse, just because a lot of different people listen to our show. And I don't want you to be riding around with your 5-year-old daughter in the car, and all of a sudden Tony throws out a word that you have to explain to him. You know what I mean? Or where she had to explain to your wife why your kids running around the house saying this. So that's what I try to do. That's the only thing that's different than my regular life, because I got a little bit of a potty mouth. But
I resemble that comment.
yeah, I try to control it on air because everybody doesn't want to hear that. But that's about it.
You guys want to throw in on that before I was about to answer it, but Kingpin elaborated on it. Does anyone want to throw in on it at this point? Pink or Ghost, I guess, or Pink or Clover?
What did he say?
As far as
not talk about making friends. Oh.
Well, do you think as an influencer you should care what people think about you? Is the original question that these guys just answered.
Personally, I really don't care. I mean, as long as everybody knows that I'm, pro 2A, and everybody's different. I have quirks about me that, some people may cock an eye at, because I'm, I always, I watch Japanese anime. I play games. I do all kinds of different stuff that some people may think is childish or foolish, but those are just extra hobbies that I do. So as long as the bottom line is pro 2A, I doesn't matter what all my other hobbies are.
Clover, do you want to anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. A lot of the people that you're not going to appease, at the end of the day, are lazy people, I think. And the reason I'm going to say that, I'm going to use a recent example of something that I run into, which was I posted, I've been filtering some things over into Full 30, and one of the ones I filtered recently was like the top 5 things we should be doing in the gun community or whatever. I can't remember now exactly what it was titled, but it's been on Gunstreamer and YouTube and everywhere else for quite a few weeks or something now. But anyway, posted that one, and it sparked some conversation. And one of the guys come in and he said, I'm just not sure that, you practice what you preach, or you walk the walk, or something like that, was the comment that he made, basically accusing me of getting out there and talking about us doing things that I'm not willing to do. And so I had to reply to that. And, my reply is that I would give anybody that would question anything is I'm an open book. You can search my name on the internet. You can find me on all types of social media platforms. My Facebook profile is not private. My Instagram profile is not private. And you can see pictures where I am doing exactly what I talk about doing. And I'm not doing it just online. It's being done in the community, state level, and all of that as well. So, if you're not willing to put in the time to actually get to know somebody, then just watch the videos, be entertained, and shut the heck up.
Exactly.
So I think I was going to answer it a different way, but then he added to the question. So I'll answer it the way I was originally. So he said, where did it go? Because there's questions coming in. Do you think as an influencer you should care what people think about you? At first I was going to say, pretty much the answers that you guys gave. But then I was going to add, but it's obvious that that's not necessary, because if he's asking, do you think as an influencer you should care? Like if he's asking, as an influencer, is that something is that an aspect of being an influencer that's necessary for success? And the answer to that is no, because there are definitely people out there that are either like weird, like they're trying to be antagonistic, I guess. They're trying to be jerks, and that's their like persona on their channel, right? Like they're argumentative and contrary, and they're trying to be like the antagonist, right? I guess that's the word. And that works for people, and you can definitely be successful with that. And then there's people that go the other way and will do nothing to ever, get anyone angry with them. Like they'll never say anything that's controversial, ever. And then they've been successful, but neither one is a strategy for success. But I guess, do I think it's important for people to think? Yes, I prefer to watch content that is done by people who are trying to add or contribute, and that an element of that is someone who has substance, someone that is adding to the conversation. So since I personally value that over fluff or exploitation, and I see a negative consequence of exploitation, so I'd rather not see that. But who wants to see only what they like, right? I don't. I like to, I'm comfortable with what I like, and I like to experience what I like, but I also seek things that are uncomfortable and that I'm not familiar with to grow and to expand. So I personally would rather see everybody add value to the world, but I don't expect that. I don't want to see a world where it's required. So that's our answers, but then he added to it, and that kind of changed the question. We say, I don't care what people think of me. And he says, I say we should care what people think if we want to influence them. And I don't know if that, with that caveat, and then he added, I'm not talking about making friends. With that caveat, does that change anybody's answer?
I think that liking and respecting are two different issues. You don't have to like someone to respect maybe their point of view. But I'll say this, it all comes down to, once again, being consistent with your message. And if my message is concealed carry, being proficient and being out there, and it's all Second Amendment related, and you don't like my message, then I'm not going to influence you anyways, whether you like me as a person or not. I think it really comes down to, once again, is if you're consistent with your message and you have a base of people that either like the way you talk or like the messages you're putting out there, and they continue to come back, then I'm naturally influencing them because they continue to come back to listen to me talk. So like I said, I mean, I think people out there are trying to be something that they're not. And I'm not saying a persona, I'm saying if they're out there trying to be an activist and they're trying to influence people, that might not be the way to go. But if you're just out there talking, you're saying what's passionate to you, what I'm passionate about, you're going to find a base of people that are passionate about the same things. And then at that point, your base that are always going to be there supporting you, you are influencing them because you've done something to where they want to keep coming back to you. And I think that's where, for me, that's what's important is you may not like me or not. But if you continue to come back, it means you have to at least respect what I'm saying. And at that point, I am influencing. So I don't try to influence people. I just try to find people that have common interests,
Exactly. You can't be someone you're not, at least not long term. It's going to show. And then when people realize you're fake, it's just over. If you don't believe me, ask Corey and Erica if you can find them.
Who? Who?
Exactly. And it's not, to be mean, but they were discovered that they weren't what they said they were, or at least he wasn't what he said he was, and they turned on him like rabid dogs. And he had to disappear, and everything they did closed down and came to an end, no matter even the good they did and the range they opened. I mean, marksmanship fundamentals is fundamentals, and nobody still wanted to go to them and learn that. So yeah, that's what happens sometimes, are the consequences of being fake.
That's true, and I don't think that's. I mean, I don't think it's something that should be. I don't know, like we don't champion that or nothing. We don't appreciate those over anything else, but I don't think anyone would want it any other ways. I guess what I'm saying, right? Like we wouldn't want just because someone's participating like an obligatory acceptance.
Yeah.
Well, I can only speak for me, but like when I just started to do YouTube, I didn't make a list of my top priorities, and number one being well liked and another one being an influencer. For me, it was simply, I want to put out information that I enjoy putting out, that I'm passionate about in my own private life. And if 10 people have the same passions, that's all I ever get is 10 people to listen to me, then at least I've got 10 people that share common interests. And then it grows from there, hopefully,
That's interesting, and that's something that I don't know if we've ever talked about it specifically, but as far as like the intent, like you say, of the channel or whatever, and the goals, I guess, and yeah, I mean that is definitely different. If your goal is numbers and ultimate success and growth, and popularity amongst views and channels, and most of the time that means like collaborations and stuff like that, then you do need to put out a certain type of content, and that will exclude the people that aren't interested in that, right? By necessity, you're not going to appeal to the people that are more interested in having a real conversation and having real relationship with the others that they're, in that whatever you create there, that little dynamic that you create with either a show or a podcast following or a blog or even an Instagram following, right? You've got a community that you grow there, and those, I don't think, at least there's too many. I mean, just from our experience, right? The people that are interested in a smaller community type like that are not following the big giant things and the larger entities or whatever, like I say, are putting out basically recipe type content.
Yeah, I mean, when you get big and you're stuck in doing one thing, you're kind of stuck in doing that one thing, unless you branch off and maybe create a secondary channel or something else that has another interest. But if you're interested in a variety of things, I mean, you grow and you change. I mean, dude,
But
I
even
remember
if you do
listening.
that, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Let me interrupt you because I'm the host. But you
Yeah,
when
go
you're
ahead.
talking about that, like, because I know what you're talking about exactly. Like the big channels, they're like, oh, we got our strategy for success. We have to follow this recipe. Every time we divert from it, we lose. So in order to keep going, this will be our anchor. Boom, we set this one out on a direction, but we're going to go do our thing over here. I guess what I'm saying is the people that follow them to that subsequent channel, like, hey, my day in the life or my other interests or whatever it is, right? Those have to be the kind of people that aren't like, I want to be part of this conversation. I suspect, because I don't really know, because I don't go hang out there as much ever. But I think those are more people like, oh, I can't wait to see what this guy does next. Like they're sitting there with the popcorn watching, and that's where I guess I'm saying, like, no matter what the substance creator size is or community has built, or however they are interacting with their people aren't there with popcorn. Their people are there with microphones and keyboards, right? They're there to be part of it. And I don't think those two circles cross much. I don't think there's too many people that are like hanging out in this conversation and then putting their popcorn on and watching dumb stuff that's frilly. And that's where I don't even know why I'm saying it. I guess just, I think that we're probably talking, I guess when Ghost was saying something, I was thinking that we're almost talking two different things. Like, or I guess when I was saying about the idea of why you start a channel, your goals, like it's almost two different things. If you're starting the channel for big heights and massive numbers, you're never really thinking about having a conversation with anybody. You're only going to be on a soapbox dictating info and pushing stuff out, right? Or just any amount of interaction is part of the recipe to get big. But you're not really saying, hey, I'm going to go find out what these people think, and let's have a conversation, and let's be open-minded and actually talk with whoever it is I'm going to end up being talking. Like I say, they don't come out with those goals initially.
Yeah, and I think that you hit on something right there it's pretty impressive, because we all know who the channels are out there that are there for entertainment. We know the channels that are out there for fame and fortune. We know that there are people out there that get into this gun community to exploit the gun community for their own gain. We know who those people are. It's no mystery. But I think the reason why a lot of us in this room have very faithful listeners and viewers and are part of our, quote unquote family is because they do like the fact that we're able to have discussions like this. We're not out there just blowing up with tannerite or, putting a bikini on or whatever. We're actually trying to have some substance to our channel. So I think that if you do it the right way, people are going to know whether you're there for entertainment or you're there for a cause. And I think that, you don't have to tell people what you're there for. I think that they're pretty smart out there to figure out what you're there for pretty quickly.
And to take us back 2 hours ago, if you want to send me your Benchmade, tannerite is legal in Ohio, so I can blow up Benchmades with tannerite if you want to send them to me.
Nice.
I think that, and we would have had this discussion, and there's the elephant in the room that we don't like to talk about necessarily, because all of us in this room are more about that discussion. We're more about the substance in our lives and all that. But there are people that do like the entertainment. They do want to see everything blown up. And if that brings someone to the community because they want to watch something being blown up, that's great, because maybe then they get into that and then they start building and growing, and they find everything else out there. So, oh man, I've never really been a gun person. That's kind of fun to watch that stuff blow up. They go buy a gun, and now they're part of the community, and they do try to find other stuff out there. They do find the discussions that are out there. On the flip side is, Clover and I talked for a while last night, and it sounds bad, but there are people out there that their life is consumed by the Second Amendment. They don't have other hobbies. They don't want to do anything else. They are the people that don't experience life, and those are the ones that I think are usually the ones that are a little more critical of different videos, because they don't have different life experiences, whether they're not old enough to really have those life experiences or whatever. But there are a lot of people that get so focused on one little thing that they don't see the big picture. And I think that that's what we're trying to do, is show everybody the big picture out there.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me for a second. Yeah, my whole life is.
Well, yeah.
You have to be a well-rounded person. You have to be aware of other stuff. And yes, some of those guys will get on and, oh, you're not talking about 2A. Oh, you should be doing this. Oh, you should be doing that. No, you don't have to. Once you step away from something or move somewhere, you will take a chance of losing the audience, especially if you take a stand on something. It happens. But, yeah, diehards are diehards. Somebody's going to follow you because they just like listening to you. No matter what you do, they're going to do that. And then those people that are hardcore, I just want to see stuff blow up. The minute you step away from that, they're like, peace, bye, I don't care. Me, the shows I'm on, I have no idea why people follow me. I mean, I don't even know where they're coming from. You know what I mean? Because I do three different types of podcast. Like, one is gun and gear review. Another one is self-defense gun stories. And then it's the 2A 4E podcast that talks about gun culture, training, legislation, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So,
well, let's do this. Since we have interactive media and we are willing to exercise it, let's put this out there for anybody that's watching or anybody that listens to this in the future. Send an email to myself or to Clover or to Ghost. You could send it to Pink or to Tony or to Artisan Tony, who was in here earlier. and let us know where you found our channel, or why you appreciate what we put out there, or why you have a problem with what we put out there, or what we could do better, or what we do that you appreciate, and send that email. And anybody who does participate like that, next time we get together, and maybe, let's put it this way, maybe the first one of you that gets one and brings it back up to me at a Second Amendment workshop will do something and sends out some kind of perk for the person that participates, and that gives us some feedback, which is always valuable. And you're by no means, you don't have to stop at just sending stuff to us. You could consider that to many of your channels. We get a lot of feedback. We definitely get comments to questions, but very rarely do we get somebody that takes the time to say something like, this is where I found you, and this is what I value, and this is a direction that I appreciate. And I tell you what, I can tell you from my experience, somebody that takes the time to do something like that is going to have more influence on a channel than somebody who never does anything, or somebody that just tries to do that in a comment section, which could easily be missed, or just filtered out. And not just with our channels, but some of the channels that you might find frustration with, that easily blow off as exploiting the industry and stuff. Perhaps with enough feedback from viewers, people that absorb their content, maybe they would be influenced as well. I don't know if that's worth the campaign or anything, but we can certainly put it out there as a way to give us some feedback on where our viewers, our conversation participants come from, and what they value.
I love the idea. Yeah, I mean, I've only been around for a couple of years, but I can probably count on one hand the emails, like you're saying, is, hey, I found your channel through so and so, and I really appreciate what you're doing, or I'd rather, I like what you're saying, but I'd rather you do something like this. I mean, all of that is valuable information to the creator. Absolutely. I like that idea.
Now I'm going to give you each a task. Let's see. I'll ask Clover, since he hasn't been saying much, to pick one of the other three panelists to be singled out, persecuted on.
Go with the big guy in the room. We'll go with Tony.
Okay, so Tony, now you get to choose one of these panels. This one, can you see my screen?
Yes.
This one, we'll call that number 1. Number 2, number 3, number 4, or number 5. One, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
I like 3. I like the 2 vans on it.
This one? Wait.
Nope. One more.
This one.
There you go.
Okay. Now the question for the audience, whoever's watching on either side, the gun channel side, which will get preference, or the YouTube side, what did we start the show with? We started the show with something today. So whoever the first one to answer, we'll get to pick one of them patches, and we'll send it out to you as part of the tactical quiz. The answer is not 42, but that is a valid guess.
9mm? Is that the answer? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You guys can participate. You weren't here when we started, but pretty simple to figure it out if you don't already know it. And all you had to do is listen for like the last 5 hours or however long it's been, and you could have known.
Radio Talk Radio.
But I'm not gonna let Pink win. He's always winning stuff. But I think we'll wrap it up. We're getting to be about 6 o'clock. I'm sure the evening shows are going to start up here. Not Browning, no. Let's see, Tony, you've got a podcast you're recording now, but what do you got coming up?
What I got coming up on the 28th, which is next Thursday, we have the diversity shoot at Gun for Hire Range in Woodland Park. That's what we have coming up right now. We haven't figured out the rest of the schedule for the year because we have a few things going. If you guys want to follow me, you can follow me on Facebook at Simon Says Train, or the second is for everyone, and you can follow me on Instagram on Simon Says Train, and we'll have our schedule up because we do competition shoot also called the Minuteman Challenge, and we do this and we do training classes. So a lot of stuff coming on.
Right on. And when you were talking about the podcast earlier, just like people were asking what time you were doing it, because I thought it was live too. I was going to say I would encourage you to create a channel over on Gun Channels. Since I'm screen sharing here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Gun Channels, a community, we built it. It's going on 6 years now. And it's basically just a place to get together and do the kind of stuff we're doing now. It's called Gun Channels because the major feature of it is you can create a channel. So when you click on channels, there's all different kind of channels based on people's projects or maybe areas of interest or cause or something. So we're going to encourage you to create a channel over here. And then that way, whenever you post something, you feel free to post it over here. It gets archived in a gun-friendly place. And
Awesome.
you know, it just gives you, again, some more reciprocal links to a site that gets lots and lots of views. And hopefully it's not too much of a burden, and it gives you a little bit more reach. And if anything else, it can help you archive some of the links and stuff, so you don't have to send people to a platform that, you know, hates our rights and hates our property and probably hates us.
All right, I'm going to look into that. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
You bet. So, Ghost, what do you got coming up?
You know, just have the Tactical Tuesday every Tuesday night at 7 Central live. It's on YouTube and on Gun Channels. We're putting stuff out on Gunstreamer in the last week or so. Part of Full 30 now, so that's kind of interesting. It's kind of see how that platform runs and all that. So that's kind of exciting. Obviously, the Armed Citizen podcast out there. We got Operation Training Day this year, and we're busy. But I wouldn't want any other way. Thanks for having me, bud.
But thanks for jumping in. There's a little confusion out there. Somebody said, did we start with Benchmade? And I was saying, nope, we didn't start with Benchmade. First while says, does Gun Channels have an Android app? No, we don't have any app. Gun Channels is just a website, so it's not like any kind of extra functionality or anything. It's simply a website. It's a community. And apps, while appealing and everything, are difficult technologically to adapt web pages into apps. And it's very costly, and the difficulty there is that it's costly repetitively. Like as things change, tech changes, apps need to be updated and stuff. So we're not at a scale that we're at a level where that's like a no-brainer. It's really not our intent to build a tool that's somehow proprietary or add something. It's the community, it's the people that are Gun Channels. So eventually, if we get large enough, we will have an app. It's not something we're against. It's just not technologically or financially feasible. And honestly, I don't know if it's really all that necessary. We're not designing it to be a place to browse content as much as a place to archive content and encourage cooperation, collaboration, and conversation. So that's a good question, but we've attempted in the past, and it's proven to be very, very expensive, and in the overall scheme of things, just not a priority yet. But great question.
Yeah, I posted a link to a video I did for Midnight Range. He couldn't get couldn't get Gun Channels to come up on the phone and everything. So I did a little video while I was on the phone to show him how to open it up, how to get it to, get the chats to run while in the video and everything else.
Right, by in effect, basically going in and telling your browser to view as a desktop and then telling Gun Channels to show it to you as a desktop. And what you get is a little mini version of the desktop, and you get all the features that you would normally get.
Right.
Just a little bit small. And you just kind of use two fingers to zoom in on the areas of the screen. But thanks for posting step-by-step there. So you got like a 6-minute step-by-step on how to do it with a mobile. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
A little bit of narrow casting there, but why not? Gun Channels is a good place. Was it War Pigs? No, it was not War Pigs, but it was audio. James is saying Simon says is a great 2A ambassador. That's what we need more of. I agree 100%. I think Tony has already helped you out a bit, which is awesome with the 2afun.com. We're including Simon in our 2A batch thing that we're going to be doing here. The 2A4E.
Oh, awesome.
We're happy to have that there. And that'll be, we started out the conversation today talking about this a little bit. This will be going up either tonight or tomorrow. So this weekend, people will be able to jump in on that. Pink's posted the link there. It was not the SWAT theme, which I like to use, or the Delta Force theme. I've never used that one. It's actually, you're thinking of the movie Final Option, which is one of the most kick-ass, awesome movies ever made. And I do use the theme to that one once in a while. And then Grandpa is saying, thanks for that link to Pink, the Pledge of Allegiance, but done right. Nope, it wasn't. So I don't know if I should. I don't want to give it away. People are guessing. So I guess we'll just keep going on to Clover. What do you got coming up?
Well, I've just published the first review on Gear Report today. So get over to Gear Report if you get a chance. Check that out. Looking forward to doing some more stuff over there. As far as what's coming up, we got the usuals next week. We got the Monday podcast on Instagram. Thursday after hours on the YouTubes. I'm sure there'll be video drops and other things. And then interesting podcast for Friday, talk with TACCOM HQ, which are some they're a company that does extreme, and we're talking 5,000 and 6,000 yard extreme long range optics. So if you're an optic geek, you're really going to enjoy that one.
Yeah, long distance shooting stops me from being a geek over it because it includes math.
Well, that's some of the beauty with the TACCOM HQ and their equipment is it really eliminates a lot of that math.
It's like when I first discovered algebra, I'm like, wait a minute, what? Who threw alphabets in? And it's like long distance shooting is bad enough, and I'm like, wait a minute, who threw math in?
All right.
I think about when I think about long distance shooting, I've known people that are definitely in it with the science, math, right, all that end of it. But then I've known, I guess I can't honestly say as many people, but I've definitely known people who just, it's like a feel, like riding a horse or I don't know, like riding a bike or something. Like they get it and they just are able to do it, and I don't see them ever take out a piece of paper and do math. They can just, you know what I mean, like they just get it. So I don't know, I think it's one of those things that once you experience it, you can figure out if you need to do the math, right? If it's frustrating, you're not hitting it, then do the math. But it's definitely a fun kind of shooting.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd like to try it. But that's one of the cool things about, I guess, I look at it as what I talk about and do. One of the cool things I feel is any new gun stuff that I go into, I take everybody with me. You know what I mean? The audience. Like, hey, I'm going to try this. You guys want to come try this with us? And long distance shooting might be one down the road, but man, it's an expensive hobby, and I'm busy right now with all this.
This is what I get to work on. Is that coming in?
Yep.
Yeah. This is my ceiling right now.
Whoa.
Literally, the snow caved in my roof yesterday.
I was going to say, I heard you guys got some snow in Tucson. What's up with that? Is hell freezing over?
It happens every once in a while. You really got me this time, though.
That's crazy, dude. Man, did it fall on him?
It may have.
Huh?
I was like, did the roof cave in on you? What happened?
Yeah, literally. No, it's transferring because if I walk over here, it'll feedback. Will kill everybody. So no more guesses. So I guess we don't have one to give out. What we ended up starting the show with today was the intro to Gun Freedom Radio, which is what we'll leave the show with today. I didn't hit Pink there. Pink is an active participant in chats, but I don't know if you got anything coming up.
Not at the moment, no.
No problem. So thanks again for jumping in, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll end it with the intro to Gun Freedom Radio, and we'll be back every Tuesday and every Saturday as long as I'm able to do it, to encourage people to be part of our 2A media, be part of new media. Our telephones and our ability to communicate is something that I'm sure Franklin would have been proud of, and let's make him proud.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.